Chapter 2553. Saint Ancestor Sha Xian's bead was as big as a mountain. It shot out beams of blood-red light that were extremely powerful. Xian Yanqing gathered countless lotus sword chi to fight against Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. However, Xian Yanqing was no match for Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. The lotus sword chi was defeated and a beam of blood-red light almost hit Xian Yanqing. She quickly retreated. "Who are you? You're not from this world." Saint Ancestor Sha Xian stared at Xian Yanqing. His blood-red eyes were filled with shock. As soon as he attacked, he could feel that Xian Yanqing's cultivation technique and the power that he controlled were not from this world. "You don't have the right to know who I am," Xian Yanqing said coldly. "No matter who you are, no one in this world will know if I kill you." "Kill!" Saint Ancestor Sha Xian shouted. The blood-red light on his body became even more intense. The blood-red light entered the blood-red bead, causing it to vibrate violently. Brr, brr. Suddenly, a furious roar came from the blood-red bead, following which a huge evil demon crawled out from the blood-red bead. This evil demon was covered in blood-red scales. It had a wide mouth with sharp fangs and was filled with murderous intent. Behind his back was a pair of blood-red wings. When they spread out, they covered the entire sky. "Kill!" The evil demon roared and charged towards Xian Yanqing. "You're just an evil demon from the abyss." "You're just an insignificant evil demon," Xian Yanqing said coldly. Beams of cold sword light appeared around her body and shot toward the blood-red evil demon. Brr. The evil demon roared and flapped its wings. A gust of wind swept towards Xian Yanqing. On the other side, Saint Ancestor Sha Xian also made his move. A blood-red sword light formed and slashed towards Xian Yanqing. Facing the attacks from both sides, Xian Yanqing was at a disadvantage. Her sword light was quickly defeated. Bam! Saint Ancestor Sha Xian's blood-red sword light slashed towards Xian Yanqing. Although Xian Yanqing formed a black lotus in time to protect herself, she was still sent flying. Her body trembled and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. "Ancestral Dragon, you have no hope. If you don't become a martial god, all your efforts will be in vain." In the dark space, he and Ancestral Dragon were locked in a fierce battle. It would be difficult to determine the outcome in a short period of time. Ancestral Dragon did not look pleased. He did not say a word. He continued Sha Xian's attacks. As for the hell-suppressing steel, it was currently locked in battle with the heaven-crushing army because it had been severely damaged. "I don't care if you die or not, you will die, I will die. Sacred Ancestor Starkiller laughed heartily and controlled the blood-red fiend to attack Xian Yanqing. But at this moment, the void split open, and a milky white sword light slashed towards the demon. The sword light was filled with sacred light. Its power was shocking. The evil demon was caught off guard and was hit by the sword light. One of its wings was severed. The evil demon screamed. The place where its wings were severed kept emitting sizzling sounds. It seemed like the sword light was effective against it. Sacred light? Damn it, what's going on? Saint Ancestor Sha Xian was furious. A weak evil demon. If it was in the past, I would have turned him into ashes with a puff of my breath. A cold, arrogant voice was heard. Then a figure appeared in the sky. It was a woman in a white dress. She looked exactly like Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanjuan. You, Saint Ancestor Sha Xian looked at Xian Yanjuan and Xian Yanqing. His eyes were filled with astonishment. "I didn't expect your cultivation to rise to the half-martial god realm so quickly after devouring the memories of your past life. I'm surprised." Xian Yanjuan didn't look at Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. Instead, she looked at Xian Yanqing and transmitted her voice. "I won't be left behind by you. I won't let you do it alone." Xian Yanqing replied. "Is that so? You're pretty confident. However, let's deal with this guy first." Xian Yanjuan chuckled. Her body emitted a white sacred light. She looked like a goddess descending to the world, pure and holy. Kill. I don't care how many of you come. All of you must die." Saint Ancestor Sha Xian roared. He controlled the evil demon and himself to attack Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan pressed her hand forward. Countless white lotuses appeared in the sky. They turned into sword chi and slashed at Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. Her cultivation was also in the half-martial god realm. Her battle strength was no weaker than Xian Yanqing's. Moreover, her attacking style was very similar to Xian Yanqing's. When Xian Yanjuan attacked, Xian Yanqing attacked as well. The two of them joined forces to fight Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. Boom, boom, boom. The battle reached a boiling point. Saint Ancestor Sha Xian was blocked by Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. For a moment, both sides were evenly matched. They blocked it. Countless people on the battlefield were shocked when they saw this scene. However, both sides had different thoughts. The evil god tribe was shocked. They found it hard to accept. On the other hand, the heaven world was ecstatic. Aha, I didn't expect that there would be such an expert in the heaven world. Good. Emperor Rebellious laughed. The number one king's face was ugly. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's battle strength was too strong. They were far stronger than ordinary half-martial gods. The two of them joined forces to block Saint Ancestor Sha Xian's attack. Such strength was too terrifying. In the heaven world, they could be said to be the strongest experts other than Ancestor Gregon. However, they had never heard of them before. However, it did not matter. As long as they were from the heaven world, it would be fine. Hi Moku, it seems like things are out of your control. Ancestor Gregon laughed. This was a pleasant surprise. Originally, he had placed all his hopes on Lu Ming. He did not expect that there would be two such experts in the heaven world. As long as they could hold Saint Ancestor Sha Xian back and wait for Lu Ming to break through, they would have a great chance of winning. The evil god realm and the heaven world had been at war for countless years. Damn it, how is this possible? The foreign tribe's divine ancestor roared. He was extremely shocked. How could there be two such experts in the heaven world? They looked like sisters, but their battle strength was so strong. There was no news about them before. It was as if they had appeared out of nowhere. Lu Ming's wife, it's that Lu Ming again. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor was furious. The battle on the battlefield entered a stalemate. The difference in strength between the two sides was not great. The battle was fierce and there were people dying at every moment. In the Ultimate Ruins battlefield, the Titan Longhorn Bull and the foreign tribe's kings were fighting. It was difficult to determine the victor. I'll suppress. Suppress him for me. Dandan transformed into his true form. He was huge and filled with runes. His battle strength was shocking. He was fighting two foreign tribes' kings alone and was not at a disadvantage. In fact, he even had the upper hand. That old turtle, I didn't expect him to be so strong after breaking through to the half-martial god realm. Not far away, the Titan Longhorn Bull thought unhappily. In the Dragon Emperor Peak, Lu Ming had been cultivating. Boom. Suddenly, a shocking aura surged from Lu Ming's body. His eyes opened. Chapter 2554. Lu Ming's aura soared into the sky like a spear that was about to pierce through heaven and earth. Break for me. Lu Ming shouted as his body emitted a dazzling purple-gold light. He wanted to break through the shackles and become a heavenly emperor. However, just as Lu Ming unleashed his aura, all around him, within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, a colorful glow suddenly appeared. The light enveloped Lu Ming, forming a terrifying pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming, restraining Lu Ming. This was the power of the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao wanted to stop Lu Ming from breaking through. The Tao of Sovereign was too terrifying. It shouldn't have appeared in places like the Heavenly Domain or the Evil God Realm. Because once the Tao of Sovereign entered the Heavenly Emperor Realm, one would be able to dominate heaven and earth, even the Heavenly Tao. This was not allowed by the Heavenly Tao. It wanted to stop it. The terrifying pressure continued to press down on Lu Ming, even forming invisible chains that wrapped around Lu Ming's body. Break. Lu Ming shouted as he exerted all his strength and struggled with all his might. Bam. The invisible chains on Lu Ming's body continued to shatter. However, after the chains shattered, even more chains appeared. Buzz. Lu Ming's muscles and bones began to vibrate rapidly. The frequency of vibrations exceeded 50 billion times per second. Such violent vibrations produced a terrifying power that shattered the invisible chains that wrapped around his body. At the same time, Lu Ming formed a long spear in his hand with the power of the Sovereign. Buzz. The long spear vibrated and swept in all directions. Lu Ming wanted to break through the shackles of the Heavenly Tao. Whoosh. Rays of spear light soared into the sky and swept in all directions. From afar, one could only see countless spear lights piercing holes in heaven and earth. It's starting to break through. In the distant dark void, the ancestral Gregon sensed it immediately and revealed a look of joy. At the same time, the foreign race's divine ancestor also sensed it, and his face darkened. It's not that easy to break through the Tao of Sovereign in the heavenly domain. The heavenly Tao doesn't allow it. The foreign race's divine ancestor said coldly. Really? At the same time, he stretched out a dragon claw to meet the outsider's sacred ancestor's attack. On the Dragon Emperor Peak, Lu Ming's spear glow grew stronger and stronger. As he executed the battle character formula, the power of each of his moves was enhanced. Each of his moves was extremely terrifying, constantly blasting away the power of the heavenly Tao. It's not enough, it's still not enough. I have to trigger double combat power. Lu Ming's mind raced. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to completely break through the shackles of the heavenly Tao. If that was the case, he would not be able to truly break through. Lu Ming kept unleashing the battle formula, hoping to trigger the double combat power. The probability of Lu Ming triggering the double combat strength effect was about 1 in 10. After triggering it about 8 or 9 times, suddenly Lu Ming felt boundless battle intent erupt from his body. This battle intent transformed into power, greatly increasing Lu Ming's strength. The battle character formula had been successfully activated. Double combat power. The long spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out, and the power of the heavenly Tao crumbled continuously. Whoosh, whoosh. Then Lu Ming's long spear shook and countless spear rays shot out, piercing through the void and breaking the power of the heavenly Tao. Boom. Lu Ming's aura grew stronger. How is this possible? In the dark void, the foreign tribe's divine ancestor widened his eyes in disbelief. Lu Ming was about to break through the shackles of the heavenly Tao. Ha ha ha. The ancestral dragon laughed maniacally. Sha Xian, quickly deal with those 2 bitches. Go and kill Lu Ming. Something's wrong. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor hurriedly sent a message to the divine ancestor. At this moment, the divine ancestor was still locked in a fierce battle with Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Hearing the divine ancestor's message, a vicious look flashed across the divine ancestor's eyes. Those 2 bitches dare to block me? Die. Die. The divine ancestor roared, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Boundless blood-red light spread out, burning fiercely. Burn your divine power. The ancestral dragon was enraged. The divine ancestor had yet to recover from his injuries as he did not have enough time. He might be able to recover in a few hundred years or even 1,000 years. Therefore, the divine ancestor's strength had barely reached the martial god realm. However, the divine ancestor had decided to burn his divine power regardless of the consequences. As a result, his strength was able to reach his peak within a short period of time. The divine ancestor's strength skyrocketed as he burned his divine power. He executed 2 consecutive slashes with shocking might. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were startled. They immediately set up defenses in front of them. However, their defenses were unable to resist the divine ancestor's attack. They were shattered instantly. Their figures shuddered violently as they were sent flying over 10,000 li away. Blood poured out from their mouths as their figures shuddered. You 2 bitches trying to stop me? Die. The divine ancestor withdrew the demon. The blood-red glow formed a sword as he slashed at Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan defended themselves with all their might. They were not aiming for success, but they were hoping to avoid making any mistakes. However, the divine ancestor who had recovered to his peak was indeed powerful. He was on par with the ancestral dragon and the divine ancestor of the foreign tribes. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were only half-gods after all. They were no match for the divine ancestor at his peak. After a few exchanges, they were sent flying again. The hearts of the people from the heaven realm sank. At this rate, the situation was not looking good. He is burning his divine power. He won't be able to hold on for long. As long as we can hold him off for a while, we will have a chance of winning. Xian Yanqing, do you still remember the dark sacred light technique? Xian Yanjuan transmitted his voice to Xian Yanqing. Yes. Xian Yanqing nodded. All right, let's use the dark sacred light technique to set up a dark sacred light cage to hold him off for a while. Xian Yanjuan said. Xian Yanqing nodded. The 2 of them made their moves at the same time. Instead of retreating, they charged toward the divine ancestor. The moment they charged out, their bodies emitted a brilliant glow. The difference was that Xian Yanqing's body was covered in a boundless dark glow. Her body seemed to have turned into a black hole. It was pitch black and no one could see her figure. On the other hand, Xian Yanjuan's body was covered in a boundless white glow. It was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. Many people could not open their eyes. Dark sacred light technique. 2 crisp voices could be heard at the same time. Immediately, boundless black and white glows shrouded the divine ancestor. The speed of the glows was unbelievably fast. They immediately shrouded the divine ancestor. Following this, the black and white glows intertwined with each other like threads, forming a cage. This was the dark sacred light cage. It was a terrifying secret technique that required the combined efforts of Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Break it! Divine ancestor Sha Xian roared. A blood-red sword light cut through the void and slashed at the dark sacred light cage. Boom. There was an earth-shattering explosion. However, Saint Ancestor Sha Xian's sword did not break the dark sacred light cage. Instead, it only caused the dark sacred light cage to shake violently. Chapter 2555. X to the power of 8-1Z 0 M Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Divine Ancestor Sha Xian was enraged by the fact that his sword had failed to break the cage. Although burning his divine power in this manner was extremely taxing on him and would leave behind terrible aftereffects, he could not care less about that now. As long as he could flatten the celestial world and successfully split open the sky, the celestial beings would definitely bestow him treasures. His injuries and aftereffects were nothing to him. He held the blood-red sword in his hand and slashed at the dark holy light cage. Boom, boom. The dark holy light cage shook violently. Every time Divine Ancestor Sha Xian's sword slashed at it, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan would tremble and turn pale. Clearly, Divine Ancestor Sha Xian's attacks were also a great burden to them. However, they gritted their teeth and persevered. Now it was time to see who could hold on. Whoever could hold on would be the winner. Break, break, break. Divine Ancestor Sha Xian attacked wildly. In an instant he could release hundreds of swords. Both sides were in a stalemate. Lu Ming, on the other hand, was progressing smoothly. He had activated double combat strength and his combat strength skyrocketed. He continued to attack the Heavenly Tao's power, shattering the shackles of the Heavenly Tao. Finally, the long spear spun and swept across the sky, completely blasting the Heavenly Tao's power away. Boom. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura exploded and reached its peak. Break! Lu Ming roared. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Then there was a loud explosion in his body. He had broken through a bottleneck. His cultivation level had risen to a whole new level. That was the Heavenly Emperor realm. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to be in control of everything. The entire celestial world was under his control. He could also sense the battle in the Ultimate Ruins battlefield in Two World City. Has the final battle begun? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Previously, he had been wholeheartedly cultivating and trying to break through to the next realm without any distractions. Who would have thought that the final battle would have already broken out? Shaoqing Mid-Autumn Moon Xiang. Lu Ming sensed that Xian Yanqing, Xiang, and the others were fine. Lu Ming felt relieved. Following this, Lu Ming waved his hand and countless G.O.D. stones flew out. Although Lu Ming had broken through, his strength hadn't caught up. He had to absorb a large amount of energy and convert it into world energy and sovereign power. Bam bam bam. Countless godly stones exploded into pieces. Lu Ming couldn't care less about wasting resources now. What he wanted was to stabilize his cultivation base as soon as possible so that he could participate in the battle. Lu Ming absorbed the endless divine aura into his body and transformed it into the power of the world and the power of the master. Lu Ming's small world began to expand wildly. Not enough, far from enough. Speed up, Lu Ming growled and finally took out all the G.O.D. stones on him. Piles of G.O.D. stones exploded and were absorbed by Lu Ming. The energy Lu Ming needed to break through to the Heavenly Emperor realm was too shocking. The main thing was that a portion of the energy would be converted into sovereign power, which was the most energy-consuming. Lu Ming still had more than 10,000 Chaos Stones left. However, 10,000 Chaos Stones were a drop in the bucket for Lu Ming now. Therefore, Lu Ming had already given them to Lu Xiang, Ouyang Moli, Bubbles, and the others. Lu Ming was now completely using G.O.D. stones to cultivate. Fortunately, he had obtained a large number of G.O.D. stones in the Yellow Spring world. Time continued to pass. Lu Ming's aura became stronger and more shocking. Of course, the number of G.O.D. stones he devoured was also increasing. The battle in the Two World City had also reached its climax. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan tried their best to stop Divine Ancestor Sha Xian, but under Divine Ancestor Sha Xian's frenzied attacks, their faces turned pale and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Sha Xian, it's too late. End this quickly. The other tribe Divine Ancestor sent a message to Divine Ancestor Sha Xian anxiously. He realized that Lu Ming was about to break through. Damn bitches, I will make sure you never reincarnate. Explode. Divine Ancestor Sha Xian roared and took out the blood-red bead. Endless blood-red light flowed from his body into the bead. The blood-red bead vibrated violently and emitted a dazzling blood-red light. Not good. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's faces changed drastically. Boom. Then, the blood-colored bead exploded with a loud bang. This was a divine weapon that surpassed a Heaven Dao weapon. When it exploded, its power was unimaginable. Endless destructive power swept out in all directions and slammed into the dark holy light cage. In an instant, the dark holy light cage exploded. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's bodies were swept away by the force and were sent flying. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and were severely injured. The divine ancestor Sha Xian's eyes turned red as he charged toward Xian Yanqing with boundless killing intent. Whoosh! His terrifyingly withered hand grabbed at Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing was severely injured and could not dodge this attack. If he was hit, he would definitely die. At this critical moment, the space in front of Xian Yanqing suddenly split open. A long spear flew out and pierced toward divine ancestor Sha Xian's hand. Dong! The long spear pierced divine ancestor Sha Xian's hand. There was a loud explosion and the long spear was sent flying. However, divine ancestor Sha Xian was also pushed back. There was a hole in his hand and blood-red light was wriggling inside. His eyes were filled with astonishment. It should be known that he was now in the state of burning his divine power, and his combat strength had recovered to its peak. However, the spear just now had pierced his palm. He looked forward with his blood-red eyes. The space in front of him split open. A tall and slender young man in a black robe appeared behind Xian Yanqing. He grabbed Xian Yanqing's slender waist and pulled Xian Yanqing into his arms. This young man was none other than Lu Ming. He had refined 90% of the divine stones in his body and finally stabilized his cultivation at the Heavenly Emperor realm. Coincidentally, divine ancestor Sha Xian had destroyed Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's dark sacred light cage. He did not hesitate to rush over. With his current cultivation he could reach Two World City from Dragon Emperor Peak in an instant. "Shao Qing, are you alright?" Lu Ming asked with concern. "Lu Ming, you're finally here." Xian Yanqing smiled. "Shao Qing, take this fruit of life." A fruit of life appeared in Lu Ming's hand and he gave it to Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing took it and swallowed it. His body shone brightly. "Fruit of life, you still have." Seeing Lu Ming take out the fruit of life, divine ancestor Sha Xian's eyes were filled with greed. "Do you want it?" "I have plenty of it." Lu Ming looked at divine ancestor Sha Xian and waved his hand. 9 fruits of life appeared in his hand. One of them flew towards Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan did not hesitate. He caught the fruit of life and swallowed it. His injuries healed quickly. So many fruits of life. Divine ancestor Sha Xian was shocked. Old Tai set a small goal. First carat remember New 8 Chinese Network. Chapter 2556. X to the power of 8 carat 1 Z carat 0 degrees M translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Lu Ming had taken out 9 fruits of life in one go. Including the one he had given to Xian Yanqing, he now had 10 fruits of life in total. Not only was the sacred ancestor Sha Xian shocked, even the sacred ancestor was dumbfounded. He clearly remembered that there were only 18 fruits of life on the Tree of Life. They had obtained 11, while the Heaven Realm had only obtained 7. Where did Lu Ming get so many fruits of life from? A fortunate encounter. Lu Ming must have had a fortunate encounter. The sacred ancestor yelled in jealousy. At the same time he also realized why the Titan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Demon Silkworm, and the others had achieved the half-martial god realm. It must be because of the fruits of life that the Chaos Monarch and the others had recovered from their injuries. The thought made the sacred ancestor feel like vomiting blood. He had only managed to obtain 11 fruits of life, which was only enough for him and the sacred ancestor Sha Xian. He felt extremely gloomy when he thought about how Lu Ming had managed to obtain a large number of fruits of life, which had greatly increased the strength of the Heaven Realm. Meanwhile, the sacred ancestor Sha Xian was shocked when he saw the fruits of life, before his eyes were filled with greed. His injuries had yet to fully recover, and he was currently burning his god force, which further worsened his injuries. If he could obtain so many fruits of life he would be able to recover in no time. "Give it to me, give me the fruits of life." The sacred ancestor Sha Xian yelled. "Give it to you? Come and take it yourself." Lu Ming kept the fruits of life and held the great desolation spear in his hand. His aura grew stronger. "Lu Ming, I didn't devour you. Now I'll destroy you." The sacred ancestor Sha Xian yelled. He turned into a crimson ray and charged at Lu Ming. Bang! A brilliant purple-golden glow burst out from Lu Ming's body as he unleashed the force of the world and the force of the ruler realm in his body. Following this, he thrust his spear forward. The great desolation spear rapidly turned into a spear glow and stabbed at the sacred ancestor Sha Xian. Dong! The two of them clashed head-on, forming a terrifying shockwave that rushed out in all directions. That part of the void completely exploded. The blood light shattered and Saint Ancestor Sha Xan retreated. Lu Ming also retracted his spear. What? In a head-on battle, Lu Ming blocked Sha Xian's attack. Oh my god, what did I just see? Could Lu Ming have become a god? How could this be? At this moment, regardless of whether it was the heaven realm or the evil god race, everyone was deeply astonished and stunned. Lu Ming was able to fight a martial god head-on. This was too shocking. The difference was that after the evil god tribe was astonished, they were filled with endless fear. As for the heaven realm, after the shock, they were filled with endless ecstasy. Ha, Moku, this time around your evil god tribe will be annihilated. Ancestral Gragon laughed loudly, feeling extremely carefree. How is this possible? This is impossible. The outsider's sacred ancestor's heart was in turmoil. He found it hard to accept. He had planned and worked hard for countless years, but in the end, this was the outcome that he could not accept. If Lu Ming could fight Saint Ancestor Sha Xan, it would be too disadvantageous for them. After all, the heaven realm still had Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan. Sha Xan, is this all you've got? Today the person that will be annihilated is you. Lu Ming swung his spear and took a step forward. His figure turned into a ray of light as he charged toward Saint Ancestor Sha Xan. Blood Sea Sword Art. Saint Ancestor Sha Xan roared as a blood sea appeared behind him. Countless blood-red sword rays flew out from the blood sea and slashed at Lu Ming. Ruler. Lu Ming executed the ruler's force to dominate the world. As the ruler's force was applied to the blood-red sword rays, the direction of the sword rays changed slightly. They did not manage to hit Lu Ming at all. Instead they flew past Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming closed in on Saint Ancestor Sha Xan and swung his spear. The long spear ray swept across the blood sea. The blood sea collapsed as Saint Ancestor Sha Xan retreated hastily. Swoosh, swoosh. The great Baron spear continued to pierce through the void. Lu Ming and Saint Ancestor Sha Xan charged into the dark void. Now that Lu Ming had broken through to the Heavenly Emperor realm, his battle strength had increased tremendously. Combining all aspects, he was comparable to a martial god. He was not any weaker than the ancestral dragon or the other tribe's divine ancestors when they were at their peak. This was under the circumstance that Lu Ming had not triggered the double combat ability. Boom, boom. Lu Ming and Saint Ancestor Sha Xan charged into the dark void. They clashed a few times in the dark void, causing the dark void to churn. After Lu Ming broke through to the Heavenly Emperor realm, the double combat power effect of the battle character incantation had ended. Therefore, Lu Ming was only in an ordinary state now, not a state with double combat power. Lu Ming circulated the Sovereign Tao to the maximum. The power of the Sovereign and the Sovereign Tao in his body roared. Lu Ming's Sovereign Tao occupied more than half of his body. This was the key to Lu Ming's ability to fight against a martial god. In the future, as Lu Ming's cultivation base increased, the power of the Sovereign Tao would also increase. Lu Ming estimated that when he reached the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm, all the power of the Sovereign Tao in his body would be converted into the power of the Sovereign Tao. At the same time, Lu Ming executed the battle character art. Although it did not trigger the double combat strength, Lu Ming's every move was shockingly powerful with the help of the battle character art. He was evenly matched with Saint Ancestor Sha Xan, who was in his peak state. In fact, Lu Ming was slightly stronger than Sha Xan. After Lu Ming and Saint Ancestor Sha Xan fought their way into the dark void, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan's injuries were more or less healed with the help of the Fruit of Life. Xian Yanqing's eyes were cold as he swept his gaze across the battlefield. Then numerous black lotuses appeared around him. They turned into streaks of sword chi and flew toward the giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion. The giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion was still engaged in an intense battle with the prison-suppressing steel. However, the prison-suppressing steel had a trace of the prison-suppressing steel's power. After such a long battle, it was almost unable to hold on any longer. At this moment, Xian Yanqing made his move. It was really the right time. The giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion stretched out a large hand and slammed it toward Xian Yanqing's sword chi. Bang, bang. The sound of collisions rang out. The giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion trembled violently as it retreated continuously. The ground under its feet cracked continuously. In a moment of carelessness, it trampled a few hundred evil god tribe members who were unable to retreat in time to death. Xian Yanqing was able to exchange blows with Saint Elder Sha Xan, who possessed the battle prowess of a martial god. His strength was above that of the Heaven-Crushing Legion. Slash. Xian Yanqing shouted coldly. He waved his small hand, and boundless sword light gathered to form a gigantic black sword chi. This sword chi once again slashed toward the giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion. The giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion raised its fist to block this attack. However, this time, the giant's fist was directly sliced into two by the sword light. A large number of Heaven-Crushing Legion elites were caught in the fist. Their bodies exploded and they perished. In an instant, several hundred Heaven-Crushing Legion elites were killed, including a dozen or so heavenly emperors. The giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion retreated continuously. However, at this moment, a milky white sword light slashed down from the heavens. Xian Yanjuan had made his move. The head of the giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion was directly severed. Another few hundred Heaven-Crushing Legion elites perished. In this way, the giant of the Heaven-Crushing Legion was directly scattered. The great formation had been broken. Old Tai set a small goal first. Remember New 8th Chinese Network. Chapter 2557. X to the power of 8 1 Z 0 degrees M. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Once the Heaven-Crushing Army's formation was broken, it was difficult for them to gather their power and weave it together. Their battle prowess was instantly greatly reduced. Nearly 100,000 people frantically retreated, their hearts filled with shock. The Heaven-Crushing Army's formation had always been invincible. Apart from the martial god, they didn't fear anyone else. However, facing Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan, they were defeated in just a few moves. Their formation was directly destroyed. Don't panic. Gather and set up the formation. The commander of the Heaven-Crushing Army roared. This person was a demigod, and he wanted to reassemble the Heaven-Crushing Army and form a formation to resist Xian Yanqing and the others. However, just as he finished speaking, 5 black lotuses appeared around him out of thin air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The lotuses spun, and their petals transformed into sharp sword chi that shot toward him. The commander's expression changed, and he waved the battle axe in his hand to block the attack. After a series of collisions, the heaven-shattering army commander's body shook violently. Cracks appeared on the heavenly Dao tool battle axe in his hand, and his chest had been pierced through by a beam of sword chi. His chest was pierced through from front to back. He was severely injured and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. His eyes were filled with shock. How could he be so strong? He was extremely terrified. No matter what, he was still a demigod and he was known as an invincible elite. However, he had only exchanged one move with Xian Yanqing, and he had already been severely injured. Whoosh. In the next instant, Xian Yanqing's figure suddenly appeared beside him. Oh no! The commander of the Heaven-Crushing Army was shocked, and he quickly retreated. However, it was already too late. A sword light flashed and his head flew high into the air. In a battle of the same level, he didn't have the slightest ability to resist Xian Yanqing. Kill? Xian Yanqing's expression was cold and merciless. With a wave of his hand, boundless sword chi rushed toward the Heaven-Crushing Army. The Heaven-Crushing Army originally had 100,000 elites, 5,000 heavenly emperors and 95,000 heavenly emperors. However, they couldn't even withstand a single blow from Xian Yanqing. Wherever the sword chi passed, the Heaven-Crushing Legion's elites were pierced and killed. Whether it was a heavenly emperor or a great emperor, they were all the same. Even a peak heavenly emperor would find it difficult to block Xian Yanqing's attack. At the same time, Xian Yanjuan also made his move. His attack style was very similar to Xian Yanqing's. Wherever his milky white sword light passed, large swathes of Heaven-Crushing Army elites were killed. This was a completely one-sided slaughter. The elites of the Heaven-Crushing Legion were being harvested like wheat. No, damn it, no. As for the number 1 king of the outsiders, the old kings felt as if their hearts were about to bleed. The Heaven-Crushing Legion was the strongest legion of the evil god tribe. So many elites had died just like that. At the same time, they were extremely terrified. Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan were practically unstoppable. After they finished killing the Heaven-Crushing Army, wouldn't it be their turn? They had seen how demigods were unable to resist Xian Yanqing at all and were almost instantly killed. If it were them, they wouldn't be too far behind. Divine Ancestor, what should we do? The number 1 king roared. His voice traveled far and wide through the dark void toward the Divine Ancestor. Retreat, form a formation and defend with all your might, the Divine Ancestor said. At this moment, the Divine Ancestor was also extremely angry. He had never imagined that the battle would turn out like this. Before the battle, he had been very confident. On the surface, the evil god tribe had the upper hand in terms of low-level, mid-level and high-level battle prowess. Moreover, he and the divine ancestor Sha Xan were martial gods. As long as they made a move, the battle would definitely be one-sided. They would definitely be able to flatten the heaven realm. However, after the battle, everything was beyond his expectations. At the beginning, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm, World Divine Turtle, and the others appeared one after another. They had all broken through to the demigod realm and delayed a portion of the evil god tribe's forces. Then, the Emperor Rebellious Emperor and the others actually recovered from their injuries. What was even more unexpected was that Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan seemed to have appeared out of nowhere and held the divine ancestor Sha Xan back until Lu Ming had a breakthrough. Lu Ming, it's all because of Lu Ming. The divine ancestor yelled in his heart. All of this was because of Lu Ming and Lu Ming's fruits of life, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm's breakthroughs. The Emperor Rebellious Emperor and the others also recovered because of Lu Ming's fruits of life. Xian Yinqing was even Lu Ming's wife. It was all because of Lu Ming that the battle had developed to this stage. Now they could only defend themselves and wait for the divine ancestor Sha Xan to kill Lu Ming or defeat the ancestral Gregon. Only then would they have a chance to turn the tables. At this thought, he couldn't help but look at the place where Lu Ming and the divine ancestor Sha Xan were fighting. His eyes widened. At this moment, Lu Ming had gained the upper hand and was suppressing the divine ancestor Sha Xan. Lu Ming and the divine ancestor Sha Xan had already exchanged a few hundred blows in the dark void. Lu Ming didn't activate the battle character manual to double his battle strength. He was fighting the divine ancestor Sha Xan in his normal state. However, Lu Ming was getting stronger as the battle went on. He had just broken through and wasn't familiar with using his power. As the battle progressed, he became more familiar with the sudden increase in power. Moreover, the battle character manual was amazing. No matter what kind of attack he used, his battle strength would increase tremendously. In addition, the divine ancestor Sha Xan was burning his divine power. The longer the battle went on, the weaker he became. Therefore, Lu Ming had the upper hand. Whoosh, whoosh. The great Baron spear in Lu Ming's hand danced like a dragon. Spear light stabbed at the divine ancestor Sha Xan. The divine ancestor Sha Xan was forced to retreat and defend himself. The divine ancestor Sha Xan's body was pierced by Lu Ming's spear light. The divine ancestor Sha Xan tried his best to recover. Blood light wriggled as he tried to heal himself. However, at this moment his expression changed drastically. Then his aura rapidly weakened. He hadn't recovered from his injuries and hadn't recovered to his peak state. He couldn't maintain his peak state for a long time by burning his divine power. Now that his divine power was almost depleted, his condition was deteriorating rapidly. Lu Ming wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. His eyes turned cold as he swung the great Baron's spear. Bam! The divine ancestor Sha Xan was sent flying. His body was almost split into two. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and his aura weakened. Die! Lu Ming took a step forward and caught up with Saint Ancestor Sha Xan. The great Baron's spear vibrated, covered with the dazzling power of the ruler. It charged towards Saint Ancestor Sha Xan, intending to annihilate him completely. Although the divine ancestor Sha Xan retreated, he couldn't avoid the attack and was hit by Lu Ming. His body shattered into pieces and turned into a sea of blood. Refine. Lu Ming stretched out his palms and the purplish gold power of the master transformed into two huge palms. When they came together, the sea of blood was shrouded in their palms. Lu Ming was going to refine the divine ancestor Sha Xan with his sovereign power. No, Moku, come and save me. The divine ancestor Sha Xan screamed in fear. He tried to break free but he couldn't break free from the sovereign power. Lu Ming. The divine ancestor roared. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. He used all his strength to exchange a few blows with the ancestral dragon. Then he took the opportunity to charge at Lu Ming. Old Tai set a small target first. Remember New 8 Chinese Network. Chapter 2558. X to the power of 8-1 Z 0 M Translator. Naoibo Studio Editor. Naoibo Studio. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor used all his strength to break free from the ancestral Gregon's obstruction and charged at Lu Ming. Boom. The divine ancestor of the foreign tribe threw a punch. A golden fist crossed the boundless void and blasted toward Lu Ming with an extremely domineering aura. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. The great desolation spear vibrated and thrust out. As soon as the spear was thrust out, the foreign tribe's divine ancestor's fist arrived and clashed with Lu Ming's spear light. A deafening explosion resounded as the great desolation spear vibrated continuously. A terrifying force surged and forced Lu Ming to take a few steps back. Divine weapon. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor was wearing a pair of golden gloves. It was obvious that the gloves were divine weapons that were specially used by martial gods. They were extremely powerful. The divine ancestor Sha Xian's divine weapon had exploded, but the foreign tribe's divine ancestor still had his divine weapon. Therefore, his battle strength was slightly stronger than the divine ancestor Sha Xian when he was burning his divine force. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor roared. His fists were like two golden suns as they blasted at Lu Ming. "Emoku, I'm your opponent." The ancestral Gragon had arrived. How could he allow the foreign tribe's divine ancestor to attack Lu Ming? He lashed out with his dragon claws and fought against the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. At the same time, a dragon horn floated above the ancestral Gragon's head. It slashed out continuously like a battle saber. It was also a divine weapon. The ancestral Gragon's battle strength was on par with the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. He could not afford to be careless. He had to fight the ancestral Gragon with all his strength. Boom, boom. The foreign tribe's divine ancestor exchanged a few blows with the ancestral Gragon. Meanwhile, Lu Ming took the opportunity to continue refining the divine ancestor Sha Xian. The divine ancestor Sha Xian continued to unleash his attacks, trying to break free from Lu Ming's obstruction. "Emoku, save me, save me." Saint Ancestor Sha Xian roared. The outsider's sacred ancestor's face was as cold as ice as he madly exchanged a few moves with the ancestral dragon. Gritting his teeth, he suddenly changed his stance, taking a hit from the ancestral dragon as he shot toward Lu Ming. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the alien race's holy ancestor closed in on Lu Ming and threw hundreds of punches at him. Lu Ming brandished his great desolate spear to block. After several hundred clashes, the strength of the sacred ancestor was indeed shocking. Lu Ming had to fend off the sacred ancestor, thus he did not have the energy to refine sacred ancestor Sha Xian. Thus, the sacred ancestor Sha Xian managed to escape. Saint Ancestor Sha Xian fled and met up with the other race's saint ancestors. "Let's go back first," the outsider race's sacred ancestor said. Right now they were at a complete disadvantage. They could only retreat first before making further plans. "You want to leave? Stay." The ancestral dragon charged forward, his dragon horn like a heavenly blade that slashed down at the outsider's sacred ancestor. Facing the ancestral dragon's attack, the outsider's sacred ancestor had no choice but to focus. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming brandished his long spear and charged forward. Dazzling spear lights shrouded the sacred ancestor and Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. Saint Ancestor Sha Xian's battle strength had weakened and was no longer a match for Lu Ming. He could only barely hold on with the help of the sacred ancestor. At this moment, the sacred ancestor had to face the ancestral dragon and fend off Lu Ming's attacks. He was at a disadvantage. Battle Character Art. During the battle, Lu Ming constantly activated the battle character art in an attempt to double his battle strength. After exchanging dozens of blows, the sacred ancestor and Saint Ancestor Sha Xian were forced to retreat. Boom. Suddenly, Lu Ming's body exploded. The double battle strength of the battle character art was activated, and Lu Ming's battle strength skyrocketed. Whoosh! A spear light pierced towards the sacred ancestor. The sacred ancestor hurriedly raised his fist to block it. Boom! This time, the sacred ancestor was sent flying by Lu Ming. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "This battle strength. How is this possible?" The sacred ancestor exclaimed in his heart. This was unbelievable. At this point in the battle, Lu Ming was still able to unleash even more battle strength. Furthermore, it had increased tremendously, completely suppressing the sacred ancestor. Once the sacred ancestor retreated, Saint Ancestor Sha Xian was exposed. "Kill!" Lu Ming roared. The great baron's spear turned into a pillar and smashed towards Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. Sacred Ancestor Sha Xian turned into a sea of blood and rolled wildly. He wanted to evade but was unable to do so. At this moment, Lu Ming had activated the battle word essence to double his combat strength. He was extremely powerful. When the great baron's spear pressed down, the sea of blood transformed by Sacred Ancestor Sha Xian was directly split into two halves. A terrifying destructive force burst forth from the great desolation spear. The sea of blood formed by Sacred Ancestor Sha Xian began to crack and shatter, turning into tiny pieces. Refine. Then Lu Ming unleashed his sovereign power and shrouded the small pieces of the sea of blood. Then he started to refine them. Sizzle, 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 green smoke filled the air. The sea of blood formed by Saint Ancestor Sha Xan was being refined at an extremely fast speed. Emoku, save me. Save me, Saint Ancestor Sha Xan was still crying for help. Sha Xan, go in peace. Emoku can't save you. Ancestral Gregon said coldly and charged towards the sacred ancestor. At this moment, the sacred ancestor's face was gloomy. There was a hint of madness in his eyes. He didn't want to fight with Ancestral Gregon. Instead, he dashed towards the other side. That was the direction of Tai Ching Sky Domain. Not good. Ancestral Gregon seemed to have thought of something. His face changed drastically as he chased after the sacred ancestor. Lu Ming, go after him. Don't let Emoku reach Tai Ching Sky Domain. Ancestral Gregon's anxious voice could be heard. Kill? Lu Ming waved his hands. Countless spear radiances appeared in the air and charged towards the remaining sea of blood. No, Saint Ancestor Sha Xan roared. Then countless spear radiances flew down and tore the sea of blood apart. Then the sea of blood dissipated under the sovereign power. In an instant, Saint Ancestor Sha Xan had completely disappeared. Not a trace of him was left. This time, Saint Ancestor Sha Xan had completely died. There was no chance for him to come back to life. A martial god had been killed by Lu Ming. After killing Saint Ancestor Sha Xan, Lu Ming increased his speed to the maximum and chased after Ancestral Gregon and the sacred ancestor. All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. However, the sacred ancestor had already reached Tai Ching Sky Domain and arrived at the lair of Zulong. Emoku, Ancestral Gregon roared in anger. He opened his mouth and spat out a destructive light beam towards the sacred ancestor. However, there was only madness in the sacred ancestor's eyes. He ignored Ancestral Gregon's attack and threw out a punch. The terrifying power shattered the space within a radius of tens of millions of miles. Through the space, one could clearly see the appearance of a small world. This small world was the lair of Zulong. The sacred ancestor's terrifying punch landed on the lair of Zulong. Like a balloon, the lair of Zulong was blown up by the sacred ancestor's punch. After the lair of Zulong was blown up, the void was suddenly filled with dazzling golden light. From afar, Lu Ming could see a huge and boundless talisman seal covering the sky. That's... Lu Ming's pupils shrank. He was very surprised. He had never thought that there would be such a huge seal behind the lair of Zulong. The heaven-suppressing seal. Ancestral Gregon, you're dreaming of sealing the sky. Today I'll tear the seal apart and let all of you die with me. The sacred ancestor roared crazily. His whole body seemed to be burning. He turned into a divine sword and rushed towards the seal. Let's set a small target first. Remember New 8 Chinese Network. Oh. Chapter 2559. Damn it. Ancestral Gregon's expression changed. He controlled the dragon horn and slashed it at the foreign race's divine ancestor. At the same time he roared, Lu Ming, quick, stop him. Ancestral Gregon's voice was filled with panic, unable to remain calm. Although Lu Ming was confused, he knew that the golden seal was of great importance. Otherwise, Ancestral Gregon wouldn't have lost his composure. Lu Ming pushed his speed to the limit. At the same time he used all his strength to throw out the Great Baron Spear. Whoosh. Now that Lu Ming had doubled his combat strength, he was extremely powerful. He threw out the Great Baron Spear and it turned into a bolt of lightning. In a flash, it charged toward the divine ancestor. However, the foreign race's divine ancestor didn't care about Ancestral Gregon's and Lu Ming's attacks. He only had eyes for the golden seal. Boom. The foreign race's divine ancestor slashed at the golden seal like a sword. The golden seal shook violently and burst out with a bright light. Rip, like a piece of cloth being torn apart, a huge hole was torn in the golden seal. At this time Ancestral Gregon and Lu Ming's attacks arrived. Poof, poof. The dragon horn controlled by Ancestral Gregon slashed the foreign race's divine ancestor's back, almost splitting him in half. At the same time, Lu Ming's Great Baron Spear also pierced the foreign race's divine ancestor's back. The foreign race's divine ancestor was severely injured. His aura withered and he became extremely weak. However, his face was filled with madness. Haha, the heaven-suppressing seal has been torn. The experts of the outside world are coming. Ancestral Gregon, what's the use of sealing the sky? You're still going to die. Even if I die, you'll die with me. Ah. The foreign race's divine ancestor laughed maniacally. He didn't hide his voice at all and it spread throughout the heaven domain. Sinkhole battlefield, 2 World City battlefield. Upon hearing this voice, everyone's expression changed. Their hearts trembled violently. especially those from the evil god tribe. Their faces were pale. It was obvious that the foreign race's divine ancestor had been defeated. How could this be? The evil god tribe members found it hard to believe and accept. If the foreign race's divine ancestor was defeated, then they were doomed. Retreat, retreat. In an instant, the morale of the evil god tribe members was gone and they retreated frantically. Kill the people of the Heaven Domain's army. They didn't understand what the foreign race's divine ancestor meant, but they knew that the foreign race's divine ancestor had been defeated. Their morale boosted, they chased after the foreign race's Gregon. "Emo, you're crazy," the ancestral dragon roared and charged toward the outsider sacred ancestor. "I'm crazy. The ones who are crazy are you and that old bastard Jinyu. You guys are stubborn and overestimating yourselves." He's twos. He was going all out. When he saw that Lu Ming's combat strength had skyrocketed and that Saint Ancestor Sha Xn had been killed, he knew that he would not be able to survive. If Lu Ming and the ancestral Gregon joined forces, he would definitely die. Therefore he attacked the golden talisman frantically. Gregons to S's. S with the Gregon. S Ming's. Ancestral Gregon stopped him. At the same time, Lu Ming arrived and attacked the foreign race's divine ancestor. The foreign race's divine ancestor was severely injured by the two of them. He was no match for them. After a few moves, Lu Ming punched through the body of the foreign race's divine ancestor. Ancestral Gregon's claws tore it apart. "Ancestral Gregon, I'll wait for you below," the foreign race's divine ancestor laughed. Ancestral Gregon controlled the dragon horn to split his head into two, destroying his body and soul. Both the foreign race's divine ancestor and divine ancestor Sha Xn were dead. It was a complete victory. However, ancestral Gregon didn't look happy at all. Instead he looked dejected. Sigh. Looking at the torn golden seal, ancestral Gregon let out a long sigh filled with helplessness. "Senior, this is..." Lu Ming had many doubts in his heart and was about to ask. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying aura was emitted from the crack in the golden talisman. Even with Lu Ming's current cultivation level, he was scared witless and could not resist this aura. Ancestral Gregon and Lu Ming retreated quickly. "What's that?" At this moment Lu Ming's eyes widened in shock. There were two balls of light behind the tear. They seemed to be a pair of eyes. They were dazzling and terrifying. Lu Ming's heart raced when he saw the two balls of light. It was as if he was an ant facing an ancient beast. "We've been discovered. A disaster is coming." Ancestral Gregon sighed. However, the two balls of light flickered a few times and disappeared. "Senior, what's that?" Lu Ming asked. "There are powerful beings outside. They have their eyes on this place. However, they can't come in for the time being. Let's go and eliminate the rest of the evil god tribe first," Ancestral Gregon said. "Okay." Lu Ming nodded. Although he was curious, he wasn't in a hurry. He took a step forward and charged toward the battlefield of Two World City. As for Ancestral Gregon, he headed toward the Ultimate Ruins battlefield. At this moment, the evil god tribe's heaven-crushing army was almost completely wiped out by Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. 100,000 experts had fallen. The evil god tribe was completely one-sided. They knew that the foreign race's divine ancestor was finished. How could they still have the courage to fight? Not only were the ordinary experts fleeing, but even the heavenly emperors and demigods were fleeing. "Number one, you fled so quickly. If you have the ability, let's fight to the death." The chaotic the Arch chased closely behind the number one king. The number one king's face was gloomy. He didn't say a word and frantically tore through space to escape. The other foreign race demigods were the same. Swoosh. Suddenly, a black sword light flashed. Not far away, a foreign race demigod was killed. Then a figure appeared. It was Xian Yinqing. Xian Yinqing's gaze was cold as he looked at the number one king. The number one king's face was pale. Xian Yinqing's combat strength was too strong. He was no match for him. If he was targeted, only death would await him. "Chaotic the Arch, if you want to die, let's die together." Suddenly, a ferocious expression appeared on the number one king's face. Instead of running away, he charged toward the Chaotic the Arch. Terrifying energy fluctuations erupted from his body. Self-destruct. The Chaotic Thearch's expression changed drastically. Clearly, the number one king knew that he couldn't escape, so he might as well throw caution to the wind and drag the Chaotic the Arch down with him. His strength was about the same as the Chaotic Thearch's. If he suddenly chose to self-destruct, the Chaotic the Arch would most likely die. The Chaotic the Arch frantically retreated, but he couldn't retreat at all. Right at this moment, a purplish golden hand suddenly appeared and grabbed toward the number one king tier. The number one king roared. Before he could self-destruct, the purple gold hand grabbed him and squeezed. The number one king died on the spot. Then a figure flashed. Lu Ming appeared. Is this the combat strength of a martial god? The chaotic the arch was shocked. The number one king, who was no weaker than him, self-destructed with all his strength. However, he couldn't even self-destruct in the hands of Lu Ming. He was crushed to death like an ant. Chapter 2560. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing exchanged a glance, smiled slightly, and then tore through the void and left respectively. Run, run, run. In front, a few foreign race old kings were frantically fleeing. But in front of them a figure suddenly appeared. It's him. All of the foreign monarchs' expressions changed drastically at the sight of this figure. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Since Lu Ming was here, it meant that the divine ancestor of the other tribes was in grave danger. Everyone, I'll send you on your way, Lu Ming said coldly and then waved his hand. Rays of spear light burst forth. Several foreign race old kings wanted to escape, but in front of Lu Ming, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. Several old kings were directly pierced through by Lu Ming's spear light, dying on the spot. After killing a few foreign race old kings, Lu Ming did not stop at all and directly tore through the void and left. He specialized in hunting foreign race powerhouses above the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm. Because powerhouses above the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm could directly tear through the void and travel through different worlds. However, in Lu Ming's hands, none of these people could escape. Lu Ming constantly shuttled through the void, hunting down foreign race powerhouses above the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm. As a result, the experts of the Heaven realm were freed up and joined the Heaven realm's army to chase after the foreign race army. It was a completely one-sided situation. After the Heaven realm's peak powerhouses and demigod-level powerhouses joined the battlefield, it became a complete massacre. A large number of foreign race heavenly emperors, great emperors, true emperors, void emperors, and quasi-emperors were slaughtered. This massacre lasted for several days. Almost all the foreign race powerhouses were slaughtered, and almost none of them escaped back to the evil god realm. A great victory, a true great victory. After that, the demigods and peak heavenly emperors of the Heaven realm directly killed their way to the evil god race, flattening the 10 great capital cities and sacred mountains of the evil god realm, slaughtering all the powerhouses above the martial emperor realm. Facing the evil god race, no one was lenient. Because on both sides either you die or I die. Victory, we won. Ha ha ha. Cheers could be heard everywhere in the Heaven realm. Countless people were extremely excited. He had finally won. For countless years, the evil god race had been a huge rock that pressed down on the hearts of countless people in the heavenly realm. It was as if a blade was hanging over everyone's heads, ready to chop down at any moment. The pressure made it hard for many people to breathe. But now, the evil god race that had suppressed the Heaven realm for countless years had been defeated by them. All their experts had been killed. From now on, the Heaven realm would no longer have any external enemies. Naturally, they were very excited. Lu Ming did not participate in the battle that followed. He returned to the lair of Zulong. Ancestral Gragon had already arrived. He had his hands behind his back as he looked at the golden seal and the ferocious crack. His expression was extremely ugly. Senior, Lu Ming cupped his fists. He's here. Ancestral Gragon spoke with a desolate voice, as if he had aged a lot in an instant. I know you have a lot of questions. Originally, I didn't want to tell you about this. But now I have no choice. I'll gather everyone here and tell you all the details of this matter. Ancestral Dragon said. Lu Ming nodded. Then Ancestral Gragon took out a big drum and suddenly hit it. Dong, dong, dong. The war drum vibrated, and the roaring sound spread out at a terrifying speed. The entire Taiching sky domain could hear it. It could even spread to other heavenly domains. In the Heaven realm, countless people were celebrating. But after hearing the war drum, everyone's expression changed drastically. What's going on? This is a war drum. It's so urgent. It's only rung when there's an extreme crisis. Who rung the war drum? This is the Ancestral Gragon war drum. Only Senior Ancestral Gragon can sound it. What's going on? At this moment, the Heaven realm was in an uproar. Didn't they win a great victory? Why would Ancestral Gragon sound this war drum? Could it be that there was another crisis in the Heaven realm? The previous excitement disappeared without a trace. Everyone's heart was covered with a layer of shadow. Countless people flew towards the lair of Zulong. Moreover, the news spread rapidly. The experts struggling in the evil god realm also heard the news and rushed to the lair of Zulong. Not long after, the void near the lair of Zulong flashed, and Xian Yanqing and Xian Yanjuan appeared. They glanced at the golden seal and their eyes flashed. They seemed to understand something. After that, more and more people arrived. Greetings, martial god. Everyone came forward to greet Lu Ming and ancestral Gregon. Lu Ming had fully demonstrated the combat strength of a martial god. They naturally regarded Lu Ming as a martial god and were respectful. Lu Ming and ancestral Gregon nodded and did not say much. As time passed, more and more creatures gathered near the lair of Zulong. A few days later, this place was densely packed with countless Heaven Realm experts. The strongest group of people in the Heaven Realm were almost all present. Almost everyone is here. Ancestral Gregon glanced at the crowd and said, "Today I have something to tell you. I didn't want to say these things at first." No one spoke at the scene, waiting for Ancestral Gregon to continue. "The foreign tribe Divine Ancestor Sha Xin, is dead," Ancestral Gregon said. "He's really dead." Most people in the Heaven Realm were ecstatic. They were just guessing before, but now that Ancestral Gregon confirmed it, they finally felt relieved. However, some people did not show any joy because they could see that there was no joy on Ancestral Gregon's face. Instead, he looked solemn. Ancestral Gregon waved his hand and the scene quieted down. "Let me tell you, although we have defeated the foreign tribe, a greater crisis is coming soon." Ancestral Gregon continued. "What?" As soon as Ancestral Gregon said this, most people were shocked and puzzled. A greater crisis? Since the foreign tribe had been defeated, how could there be a greater crisis? Could it be? Many people looked at the golden seal in the crack. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying aura came from the crack again. The aura was indescribably terrifying. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and they all wanted to kneel down. Then 2 balls of light appeared and flickered non-stop. After a while they left. Gulp, gulp. Many people kept swallowing their saliva and their expressions were very solemn. They guessed that the crisis that Ancestral Gregon mentioned might come from there. However, what was behind the golden seal? Why was there such a terrifying aura that was several times stronger than Ancestral Gregon's? Was there an existence stronger than the martial god in the world? Many people were puzzled. Do you know why the evil god tribe attacked the Heaven Realm and why they wanted to destroy it? Ancestral Gregon continued. Many people's eyes flickered, including Lu Ming. Lu Ming had always been puzzled by this question. Why did the evil god tribe have to attack the Heaven Realm and destroy it? Wasn't it good for both sides to get along peacefully? Even if they were fighting for resources, they shouldn't have gone to war. Chapter 2561. Everyone looked at Ancestral Gregon, waiting for him to continue. Ancestral Gregon pondered for a while, as if thinking about how to phrase it. After a while he said, "Evil god tribe, why did the foreign race's divine ancestor attack the heavenly realm and destroy us?" "It's because of that." Ancestral Gregon pointed at the golden seal and said, "The heaven-suppressing seal. Their goal is to tear the heaven-suppressing seal." Heaven-suppressing seal. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They knew that the seal was called the heaven-suppressing seal. However, why did the evil god tribe have to tear the heaven-suppressing seal? If you want to know all this, you have to start from the structure of this world or this universe. For example, people who cultivate laws can cultivate small worlds when they reach the martial emperor realm. However, such small worlds have flaws no matter how strong their cultivation is. For example, the heavenly realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm are naturally born. The laws and great Tao are perfect and the heavenly Tao rules. Such worlds can allow people to cultivate until they reach the half-god realm. Such worlds are called small worlds. At this point, Ancestral Gregon paused as if giving everyone time to digest. Small worlds? Many people were shocked, and their imaginations ran wild. From what Ancestral Gregon said, other than the evil god realm, the heavenly realm, and the primordial realm, could there be other worlds? Some people with weaker cultivations thought that the world was only so big. There were only the heavenly realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm. They never thought that there were other worlds. Naturally, they were even more shocked now. Everyone's imagination ran wild as their thoughts swirled. If there are small worlds, there will naturally be great worlds. The great worlds are called the Great Desolate Universe. There is also another name, the Deity Realm. That place is vast and boundless. No one knows how vast it is. Ancestral Gregon continued. As expected, the Great Desolate Universe. Lu Ming was shocked to hear the term Great Desolate Universe again. Back then, White Fang had mentioned it in Yellow Spring Island. The primitive universe is too vast. The minor kiliacosm is like a speck of dust compared to the primitive universe. The number of minor kiliacosms attached to the primitive universe is unimaginable. No one knows how many there are. And our heavenly realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god tribe is a small world. Ancestral Gragon continued to explain. What? Most of the people at the scene were tongue-tied and dumbfounded. Ancestral Gragon's words simply overturned their worldview and overturned their understanding. The heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm added together was only a small kiliacosm. And there were countless small kiliacosms attached to the primitive universe. This meant that there were countless worlds similar to the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm. Above them there was an unimaginably vast universe. The highest cultivation in the small world is the half-martial god realm. If you want to rank up to the martial god realm, you'll have to head to the desolate universe. Before the primordial era, the heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm were connected to the primitive universe. Therefore, many demigods before that era went to the primitive universe. Ancestral Dragon said. If that's the case, why is it that no one has gone out yet? Someone couldn't help but ask. I know you're confused. The heaven realm, the primordial realm, and the evil god realm are all considered small kiliacosms. There's only one passage that leads to the primitive universe. That passage is right there. Ancestral Dragon pointed at the heaven-suppressing rune and continued, the reason why we can't go out now is that in the primordial era, the hell-suppressing rune and I joined forces to seal this passage. What? Many people were shocked, especially some of the demigods. They could not understand why the Ancestral Dragon and the hell-suppressing rune would join forces to seal this passage. Sigh. At this moment, Ancestral Gragon sighed and said with a bitter expression, actually, many of the minor worlds are controlled by the major forces of the primitive universe. This place is not an exception. It is controlled by a powerful force of the primitive universe. That faction is called the Yuanluo Palace. It's made up of many races and is extremely powerful. Our world is their private property. In the primitive universe, humans, divine beasts, and other races are all very intelligent races. Therefore, the Yuanluo Palace will come here every once in a while and select a group of powerful prodigies to go out. Do you know why they select these prodigies? It's not to nurture them, but to refine them into pills for their cultivation. Rumble. Ancestral Dragon's words shocked many people. Their world was controlled by a faction called the Yuanluo Palace in the primitive universe, and the Yuanluo Palace was using them to refine pills. What was the difference between this and the spiritual herbs that were bred in captivity? That's right. The Yuanluo Palace has turned this small kiliacosm into a pasture and herb garden. When needed, they will extract a portion of the excellent herbs to refine pills. All humans and divine beasts are the herbs that the Yuanluo Palace has bred. Ancestral Dragon said with an even uglier expression. How can this be? Most people, including Lu Ming, had ugly expressions. They had never imagined that they were just herbs that were bred by someone else. This was a great mockery and also a great blow to him. The prison protector and I couldn't stand it. The prison protector had a fortuitous encounter and obtained the heaven-suppressing talisman. The two of us controlled the heaven-suppressing talisman to seal this passage. However, we were still discovered by the Yuanluo Palace when we were sealing it. An expert from the Yuanluo Palace roared and ordered the evil god tribe to destroy us and open the seal. The evil god tribe isn't of much use to the Yuanluo Palace. Very few of them are used to refine pills. On the contrary, they have received many benefits from the Yuanluo Palace. Naturally, they didn't want the passage to be sealed. Therefore, the divine ancestor of the other races, divine ancestor Sha Xian, wanted to destroy us and open the seal. Ancestral Dragon explained. Everyone came to a sudden realization. They understood everything now. They finally understood why the evil god race insisted on attacking the heavenly realm, insisting on destroying the heavenly realm. They wanted to open the seal and claim credit from the Yuanluo Palace. Ancestral Dragon and the prison protector ancestor couldn't bear to see the humans and divine beasts being enslaved by the Yuanluo Palace and used as herbs. That was the reason for the ancient war. Originally, I didn't want to talk about this. If we had defeated the evil god tribe, this matter would have been over. If we had lost, there would have been no need to reveal this secret. Sigh. Ancestral Dragon sighed. Lu Ming also sighed. He understood Ancestral Dragon's thoughts. It was really hard to accept that they were just herbs that had been bred by someone else. It was too much of a blow. It was really sad. If they didn't have to talk about it, they would naturally choose not to. However, the divine ancestor of the other races risked his life and tore a hole in the heavens suppressing talisman. This way the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace will definitely find a way to come in. We won't be able to escape this disaster. You should know the whole story. Therefore I will tell you everything today. Ancestral Dragon said. Chapter 2562. Ancestral Dragon had explained everything clearly. Everyone's doubts had been answered, but no one was happy. There was only heaviness and anger. Kill. We'll kill our way out and fight to the death with the Yuan Luo Palace. Yes, we'll kill our way out. Even if we die, we'll kill to our heart's content. Many hot-tempered people started to shout. Ancestral Dragon raised his hand and the crowd quieted down. Fight? Oh. Ancestral Dragon shook his head and sighed. Do you know how strong the Yuan Luo Palace is? The evil god tribe can't be compared to them. I can tell you that I, Old Ancestor Zhenyu, Saint Ancestor Sha Xin, and the other tribe's divine ancestor were once part of the Yuan Luo Palace. We're just ordinary guards in the Yuan Luo Palace. The Yuan Luo Palace has thousands of guards just like us. Hiss hiss hiss. Ancestral Dragon's words caused the crowd to gasp in astonishment. Everyone looked at each other. Ancestral Dragon, Old Ancestor Zhenyu, and the other tribe's divine ancestor were martial gods. They were legendary existences in the heaven boundary and the evil god boundary. However, such existences were only ordinary guards in the Yuan Luo Palace. And there were tens of thousands of guards like them. How could they fight? The other party could just send in a few martial gods to kill them. The primitive universe was also known as the divine world. As the name suggested, the divine world was the world of the divine beings. The four of us were sent here by the Yuan Luo Palace to guard this place. To put it bluntly, we were sent here because we were weak. Therefore, it's difficult for us to resist the Yuan Luo Palace. However, the Lesser Thousand Realm is still a Lesser Thousand Realm. It's too weak. Therefore, powerful experts can't enter. Once they enter, they'll destroy the Lesser Thousand Realm. Therefore, we're not completely without hope. Ancestral Dragon said. However, most of them were filled with despair. They couldn't imagine how they could fight against a force that had thousands of martial gods. Alright, I've said what I need to say. You can all leave now. Go back and do what you need to do. If the Yuan Luo Palace comes, we'll just fight. Ancestral Dragon said. That's right, we'll fight. We'll die. Some people shouted. However, even more people sighed. Originally, they had been very happy and excited after defeating the evil god tribe. Unexpectedly, an even stronger and more terrifying enemy had appeared. This kind of situation really made people despair. Most of the people left with heavy hearts. Lu Ming did not leave. He asked Xian Yanqing and the others to go back first. He stayed behind because he still had questions to ask the Ancestral Dragon. Not long after, everyone left, leaving only Lu Ming and Ancestral Dragon. Lu Ming, I know you still have questions. What do you want to know? Ancestral Dragon said. Senior, I do have some doubts. Since the Origin Luo Hall has so many experts and even the foreign race's divine ancestor could break the sky suppression seal, why didn't the experts of the Origin Luo Hall break it from the outside? Lu Ming asked. That's right. Although the sky suppression seal was obtained from an ancient relic, it's extremely powerful. Once it's sealed from the inside of the heaven region, it can mobilize the power of the entire heaven region. It's difficult for an ordinary martial god to break it from the outside, but stronger martial gods can indeed break it from the outside. However, the small Kiliacosm is weak. Once it's broken, the entire heaven region will be destroyed. The Origin Luo Hall can't bear to do that. They want to destroy us and break it from the inside. This way, the heaven region and the primordial realm can become a place for them to keep medicinal herbs. Ancestral Dragon said. This answer made Lu Ming feel helpless. The other party did not break in because they were afraid of destroying the heaven region. If they were ruthless, they could destroy the heaven region at any time. Their fates were not in his control. Next, the Origin Luo Hall will definitely not send anyone too strong. However, I'm afraid they will send someone below the empty god realm. Ancestral Dragon said. Empty god realm? Lu Ming was puzzled. This is the division of the martial god realm. Normally, those who have just become martial gods are in the empty god realm. Ancestral Dragon nodded. Are there any realms above the empty god realm? Lu Ming asked curiously. Yes, above the empty god realm is the true god realm, the heavenly god realm and the divine king realm. Each realm is divided into 9 levels. Ancestral Dragon said. Empty god realm, true god realm, heavenly god realm and the divine king realm. Lu Ming muttered. It turned out that there were realms above the martial god realm. He still had a long way to go. Although he was strong now, he was only at the peak of the heaven region, the primordial realm and the evil god realm. However, the heaven region, the primordial realm and the evil god realm were just one of the countless small kiliocosms. They were nothing compared to the chaotic universe. Those above the empty god realm are too strong. The surge of divine force can easily destroy a place like the heaven region. Therefore they will most likely send those below the empty god realm. However, those below the empty god realm will definitely be attacked by the heaven suppressing seal and will definitely be injured. Therefore we still have a chance. However, we still have to be careful. The difference between each level in the empty god realm is huge. It is not comparable to the heavenly emperor realm. As for me, the divine ancestor, Zhenyu and Sha Xian, we are all at the empty god realm. Lu Ming, although you are a 1-star heavenly emperor, you can fight against a level 1 empty god. However, even if you become a 2-star heavenly emperor, you will not be able to fight against a level 2 empty god. Do you understand? Ancestral Gragon warned seriously. Lu Ming nodded. It was easy to understand. The difference between each level in the empty god realm was bigger than the heavenly emperor realm. Even if he had become a 2-star heavenly emperor, the increase in strength would not be as big as the empty god realm. Therefore, he might not be able to fight against a level 2 empty god. Of course, this was under the condition that he did not activate the battle formula to double his combat strength. Lu Ming, go back and cultivate. I will stay here and inform you immediately if there is any movement, Ancestral Gragon said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. He then turned around and returned to the Dragon Emperor Peak. At that moment, many people had gathered at the Dragon Emperor Peak. Xian Yinqing, Long Qin, Huang Ling and the rest were all there. However, many of them looked solemn. Ancestral Gragon's words were like a rock that pressed down on their hearts. Lu Ming chatted with the crowd for a while before they dispersed and went to cultivate. No matter what kind of enemy they would face, the most important thing was to improve themselves. Lu Ming entered a secret room and sat down with his legs crossed. He then moved his hand and the Great Baron's spear appeared in his hand. One could see that the Great Baron's spear was full of cracks and its spirituality was greatly reduced. It was already half destroyed. A sacred weapon is indeed powerful, Lu Ming muttered. Previously, he had used the Great Baron's spear to fight against the divine ancestor and the Great Baron's spear had been damaged. After looking at it for a while, Lu Ming kept the Great Baron's spear and a combat sword appeared in his hand. Chapter 2563. Lu Ming put away the Great Desolate Spear and took out a battle sword. This battle sword was given to him by Baiya. It was a divine weapon. During the battle with the divine ancestors, Lu Ming had just broken through and did not have the time to refine this divine weapon. Therefore he could only fight with the Great Desolate Spear. Lu Ming used the Great Desolate Spear to fight the enemy. Initially, he was at a slight disadvantage when he encountered the sacred ancestor of a foreign tribe who had a divine weapon. He only managed to suppress the other party after activating the battle formula to double his combat power. If Lu Ming refined this divine weapon, even if he did not activate the battle word sutra, he would be able to fight against a foreign tribe's sacred ancestor. Lu Ming intended to refine this divine weapon now. In this way his ability would be enhanced. With a thought, the sovereign force enveloped the battle sword and began to refine it. The sovereign force could dominate the world. It was easy for him to refine the divine weapon. In just a few days, Lu Ming had refined the battle sword. Buzz! The battle sword floated in front of Lu Ming. It vibrated slightly and emitted a mysterious glow. Return. Lu Ming's mind stirred and the combat sword transformed into a beam of light, dashing into his glabella and disappearing. Lu Ming was able to do this. If it were any other heavenly emperor, they would not be able to refine or control a divine weapon. A divine weapon was a weapon used by martial gods. However, it was not a problem for Lu Ming to control it with the power of a master. After refining the divine weapon, Lu Ming planned to comprehend the sovereign Tao and the battle formula. Lu Ming did not know when the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall would arrive. He had to make good use of his time and improve his strength as much as possible. With a thought, a scroll opened in his sea of consciousness, revealing Jing Yu's portrait. Dense sovereign force filled the air. Lu Ming could sense the sovereign Tao's power at all times. Lu Ming began to focus on comprehending the sovereign Tao. Days passed, and Lu Ming's understanding of the Tao of the sovereign lord continued to improve. In the past few decades, Lu Ming had been stuck at the peak of the martial monarch realm. He had been obstructed by the heavenly Tao and could not advance any further. But now Lu Ming had broken through, and with the help of Jing Yu's portrait, his understanding of the Tao of sovereign was improving rapidly. Every day he would gain quite a bit. The strange thing was that the Yuan Luo Palace did not make any moves. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. In these 10 years the Yuan Luo Palace had not sent anyone in. In the past 10 years, Lu Ming had benefited greatly from the shocking feather painting, and his Tao of the Sovereign Lord had improved significantly. Right now I can already assail 2-star Heavenly Emperor. Then let's assail it, Lu Ming whispered. Then he took out a large number of divine stones, origin stones, chaos stones, and so on. Originally, the divine stones that he brought out of the Yellow Springs Mountain had already been consumed by 90% when he broke through to the Heavenly Emperor realm. But later on they defeated the evil god race. Lu Ming obtained a large number of divine stones, origin stones, chaos stones, and primordial stones from the evil god race's powerhouses. Now it was just nice to help Lu Ming break through. Refine. Lu Ming waved his hand. The power of sovereign enveloped those divine stones, chaos stones, origin stones, and so on. These divine stones and chaos stones exploded upon collision. Surging energy gathered towards Lu Ming frenziedly. All of it was absorbed and refined by Lu Ming, transforming into world power and sovereign power. Lu Ming launched an assault towards 2-star Heavenly Emperor. Half a month later Lu Ming's aura skyrocketed. His cultivation had precisely stepped into 2-star Heavenly Emperor, and his strength increased by a level. Broke through. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. Cultivation breakthrough, combat power increase. Lu Ming's confidence was a little more abundant. However, the resources consumed were too horrifying. The resources in Lu Ming's hands were almost depleted. If he wanted to continue breaking through in the future, he did not know what to use to break through. Forget it for now. Lu Ming shook his head, then cultivated for a few days. After his realm stabilized, Lu Ming began to comprehend the battle character formula again. In these 10 years, Lu Ming did not stop comprehending the battle character formula. His comprehension of the battle character formula became deeper and deeper. Now, on average he could trigger double combat strength once every 5 times. This was undoubtedly very advantageous in a great battle. Lu Ming, come quickly. Right at this time, a voice sounded in Lu Ming's ear. It was Ancestral Gregon's voice. It sounded somewhat urgent. Are powerhouses from Yuan Luo Hall about to descend? Lu Ming immediately thought of Yuan Luo Hall. Lu Ming took a step forward, the space cracked and directly disappeared. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared at the original location of the lair of Zulong. Ancestral Gregon was looking at the heaven-suppressing rune with a solemn expression. Rumble. At this moment, the heaven-suppressing rune was shaking violently. The crack torn by the foreign tribe's divine ancestor was swelling, as if something was about to rush in. The two were on full alert, ready to attack at any time. Rumble. The crack shook more and more violently. Finally, with a sudden roar, a huge round bead rushed in from the crack. Lu Ming and Ancestral Gregon were about to attack first to gain the upper hand and destroy the other party. However, just as the two were about to attack, the round bead exploded and terrifying energy overflowed. Not good. The two's expressions changed. The energy was too terrifying. The two quickly retreated to avoid the energy. In the area where the round bead exploded, the space was completely torn apart. Ferocious cracks appeared in the space within a radius of millions of miles, like a spider web covering the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. In the chaotic space, Lu Ming saw a few streams of light flying in all directions from the area where the round bead exploded, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Living beings? Lu Ming saw clearly that the streams of light were living beings. They flew to various places in the heaven realm, and some even flew into the dark void. For a moment, Lu Ming couldn't determine how many living beings there were. Obviously, the terrifying living beings from the outside world had come in and rode on the round bead. After a short while, the chaotic space returned to normal. Ancestral Gregon's expression was very ugly. No wonder no one from Yuan Luo Hall has come in for the past 10 years. It turns out that they were trying to create that round bead to resist the power of the heaven-suppressing rune. Ancestral Gregon said with a gloomy expression. So the other party who came in wasn't injured? Lu Ming asked. No, most of them were injured. The heaven-suppressing rune is very lethal to low-level hollow gods. Now we just don't know how many experts came in. Ancestral Gregon said solemnly. In the northern region of Taiching Sky Domain, a stream of light flew over and crashed into a mountain range. Boom, boom. The mountain range shook and the peaks collapsed. What's going on? The divine beasts and humans who were cultivating in the surroundings were shocked and stood around to watch. Whoosh. Suddenly, a blood-red light spread out from the mountain range in front of them. Then a terrifying suction force erupted. Not good, retreat. The surrounding humans and divine beasts' expressions changed drastically, and they wanted to retreat. However, they found that they couldn't retreat at all because the suction force was too terrifying. Their bodies were sucked in by the suction force. After a few screams, there was no more sound. Chapter 2564. After devouring the divine beasts and humans, a bloody light shone brightly, and in a flash, a strange creature appeared in the air. The creature was in the shape of a human, but it had long blood-red hair and sharp fangs in its mouth. There was also a pair of blood-red wings on its back. It looked like a bat in human form. The flesh and blood of the divine beasts of the human clan are too delicious, too delicious. The human-shaped bat licked its lips and revealed an intoxicated expression, as well as a deep greed and thirst for blood. He spread out his spiritual consciousness and instantly enveloped the entire northern region of the grand pure celestial domain. Haha, so many humans and divine beasts. This ranch is not bad. I'll enjoy it first. The human-shaped bat laughed sinisterly and took a step forward. In the next moment he appeared in the sky above a huge city. This huge city was a famous one in the northern region of the grand pure celestial domain. There were more than 100 million humans and divine beasts in this huge city, and several major factions lived there. Haha, you'll all become my food and replenish my energy. The human-shaped bat laughed sinisterly. Its body rapidly expanded to 100,000 feet tall, and a terrifying aura spread in all directions. Heavens, what's that? What a terrifying aura. When the living beings in the giant city discovered the human-shaped bat, they were all stunned. The main thing was that the human-shaped bat's aura was too terrifying. Divine might, that's divine might. He's a deity. One of the celestial emperors in the huge city shouted in horror. A deity? Everyone's hearts trembled. Apart from the ancestral dragon and Lu Ming, there were no other deities in the celestial domain, primordial realm, or fiend god realm. Oh no, run, run. Suddenly, someone roared and rushed out of the city. They remembered the ancestral dragon's words. The beings of the primitive universe would attack the celestial domain from beyond the heavens. Now that a deity had appeared out of nowhere, it must have come from beyond the heavens. You want to leave? Where can you go in front of me? The human-shaped bat grinned maliciously as it reached out with its gigantic hand, covering the sky and covering the earth. The fleeing humans and divine beasts, numbering in the thousands, were all caught and stuffed into its bloody mouth, chewing on them. Blood flowed along the fangs of the humanoid bat. Delicious, truly delicious. Ah! The human-shaped bat laughed heartily. Even with the protection of the bead, he was still injured when he entered the primitive universe. At this moment he could devour these divine beasts to heal himself. Seeing several thousand people being devoured in a blink of an eye, even including a heavenly emperor realm expert, the people in the enormous city panicked and began to flee madly outside. Ha ha ha, become my delicacy. The benefits of this mission are too good. The human-shaped bat laughed heartily. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed. A terrifying suction force erupted, and countless people in the giant city involuntarily flew toward the bat's mouth. Help! No, no! Countless humans and divine beasts screamed in horror. True emperors, great emperors, and heavenly emperors couldn't resist at all. They were directly devoured by the bat as food. Hundreds of thousands of beings were devoured in one gulp, and there was an endless stream of them being devoured. More than half of the 100 million inhabitants in the enormous city were devoured in the blink of an eye. Haha, this minor dimension has so little pressure, it's too fragile. I can destroy the world here. The human-shaped bat laughed maniacally and continued to devour. At the same time, a figure as tall as the sky was walking through the air in the southern region of Grand Lucidity. This figure was also in human form, but he was shrouded in a black robe. He held a large banner in his hand with countless shadows scurrying about on it. These black shadows were all souls like evil spirits. Whoosh! This figure also came to the sky above a giant city. Without saying a word, he waved the banner and it became infinitely large, enveloping the entire city. Not long after, the banner was lifted and all the living beings in the giant city perished. Their souls were sucked into the banner. Then he moved on to the next big city. It was a massacre, an endless massacre. Wherever these two creatures passed, there was endless slaughter. They treated the humans and divine beasts as nourishment and enjoyed them to their heart's content. In the lair of Zulong, Lu Ming and Ancestral Graygon spread out their spiritual senses and immediately discovered this scene. Damn it! Ancestral Graygon's face was ferocious as he roared angrily. Lu Ming's face was also extremely cold. Both of them are at level 1 empty god realm. Lu Ming, you and I will take one each. Ancestral Gragon said to Lu Ming. All right. Lu Ming nodded and took a step forward, heading toward the northern region of Grand Lucidity Sky Domain. Ancestral Gragon, on the other hand, headed toward the southern region of Grand Lucidity Sky Domain. In the northern region of Grand Lucidity Sky Domain, the human-shaped bat creature had already devoured all the living beings in the giant city. The vast and spacious giant city, which was originally extremely prosperous, was now empty. Not even a dog or a chick was left. Awesome, this is awesome. The human-shaped bat creature burped and the greed in its eyes became more intense. It set its eyes on the next giant city and its huge body was about to rush toward it. However, at this moment, the void in front of it split open and a figure stepped out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's face was extremely cold and his body exuded an extremely strong killing intent. These people from Yuan Luo Hall had really treated them as medicinal herbs and could be harvested and slaughtered at will. A transformation void stage ant? The human-shaped bat creature was slightly stunned when it saw Lu Ming. I will make you die a horrible death. Lu Ming said coldly and stepped forward. What? Make me die a horrible death? Haha, with just a transformation void stage ant like you? The human-shaped bat creature laughed maniacally. It called the Heavenly Emperor realm exactly the same as in the Yellow Springs world. Boom. Suddenly, the human-shaped bat creature moved and reached out a large hand to grab Lu Ming. In its opinion, Lu Ming, a transformation void stage ant, was too arrogant. It wanted to swallow Lu Ming in one gulp. Kill? Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with the opponent. The god weapon battle sword appeared in his hand and erupted with the Tao of Sovereign as he slashed out. Sword lights surged and a sword mark that was millions of miles long appeared in the sky. Poof. The human-shaped bat creature's hand was split in half. The human-shaped bat creature screamed and stretched its arm back. How is this possible? You have mastered the Tao of Sovereign. How can someone in a small world master the Tao of Sovereign? The human-shaped bat creature cried out in disbelief. Kill? Lu Ming's killing intent was as cold as a knife. He held the battle sword in his hand and attacked the opponent. Chapter 2565. Lu Ming had comprehended the battle formula. The battle formula was the origin of all battles. After comprehending the battle formula, no matter what move or divine ability it was, its power would be enhanced. Moreover, no matter what weapon it was, it would be easy to use and its power would be maximized. Therefore, there was no difference between Lu Ming using a battle sword and a long spear. It seems that the trash of the three-eyed race died in your hands? The human-shaped bat roared and took out a scissor-like divine artifact and attacked Lu Ming. Boom. The two of them collided head-on. The human-shaped bat's body shook violently and retreated rapidly. How is this possible? Your combat strength? The human-shaped bat was shocked. Lu Ming was just a void transformation realm existence. How could his combat strength be so strong? Could it be that those who had mastered the Tao of Sovereign were so strong? The human-shaped bat could not calm down. Even in the primitive universe, those who had mastered the Tao of Sovereign were rare geniuses. He had only heard of them but had never seen them. He had never thought that they would be so terrifying that he would be at a disadvantage. Swoosh. Lu Ming defeated the human-shaped bat with one move and continued to attack his opponent. The two of them exchanged a few more moves. The human-shaped bat was no match for him at all and was sent flying. Its arm exploded and blood spurted from its mouth. Lu Ming's strength had increased greatly since the battle with the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. Now, he had refined the divine artifact and his cultivation had broken through to the two-star Heavenly Emperor realm. The human-shaped bat's cultivation level was only on par with the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. Moreover, when he entered the Heaven realm, he was also injured by the Heaven-suppressing rune. Naturally, he was no match for Lu Ming. No, this person is too terrifying. I have to find the others first before killing him. The human-shaped bat's body shrank and flapped its wings, trying to escape. However, there was no way Lu Ming would let him escape. His figure moved and his combat sword slashed out violently. Streaks of terrifying sword gleams shrouded the human-shaped bat living creature. The human-shaped bat was struck by Lu Ming's sword, almost cleaving it in half. It spat out a large mouthful of blood and was sent flying, suffering heavy injuries. Brat, you dare to kill me? You're just someone from a small kiliacosm and you dare to kill me? I'm from the Yuan Luo Palace. If you kill me, the Yuan Luo Palace will turn you into ashes. The humanoid bat began to roar and threaten Lu Ming. Ridiculous. Lu Ming remained unmoved. This human-shaped bat had slaughtered hundreds of millions of living beings in the Heaven realm as soon as it entered. No matter what, he had to kill this person. Lu Ming became one with his sword. He transformed into a terrifying sword light and slashed out. This time the human-shaped bat was truly hacked diagonally, cleaved in half. The human-shaped bat creature roared in alarm, running away with all its might. He never thought that he would be in danger of dying as soon as he entered. Originally, he thought that it was just a small thousand world and he could come in and indulge himself. He never thought that he would end up like this. Kill? Lu Ming roared and slashed down with his sword once again. This time the human-shaped bat creature could not avoid the attack. It was cleaved in half by Lu Ming's sword and its soul was destroyed. It died completely. This time it was much easier for Lu Ming to kill a first-level void god. However, Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. This human-shaped bat creature was obviously the weakest among the empty gods. It was only a level 1 empty god. Moreover, it was injured when it entered, which was why Lu Ming killed it so easily. If it was not injured, it would not have been so easy. What would happen if it encountered a level 2 empty god or even a level 3 empty god? Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the human-shaped bat creature's storage ring. Before he could open it to check, Lu Ming's expression changed again. This was because he realized that there was a powerful being rushing towards the heaven-suppressing seal. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming was enraged. He did not know how many creatures had entered from the outside. The other party was obviously taking the opportunity to attack the heaven-suppressing seal. He wanted to tear it apart. Lu Ming rushed toward the heaven-suppressing rune at lightning speed. However, he was still a step too late. Boom. A burly man with a horn on his head slammed into the heaven-suppressing talisman, causing the hole in the heaven-suppressing talisman to widen. Die. Lu Ming arrived and slashed down with his sword. The man with the horn was shocked. He turned around and punched at Lu Ming. When his fist collided with the sword, the man with the horn was pushed back tens of thousands of miles. The single-horned hunk was also a level 1 empty god. Sovereign Tao. The single-horned man's eyes were filled with shock. Kill? Lu Ming roared. Without saying anything, he charged towards the man with the horn. The man with the horn also unleashed his full strength and charged towards Lu Ming. Rip. At this moment, the space not far away cracked and a black python appeared. It was as big as a mountain and charged towards Lu Ming. It was another level 1 empty god realm expert. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. His sword vibrated and split into 2 sword radiances, slashing towards the man with the horn and the python. There were 2 terrifying booming sounds and the void collapsed. The single-horned burly man and the python were sent flying by Lu Ming. Lu Ming was invincible as he continued to charge towards his opponent. At the same time, he activated the battle character skill to double his combat strength. Boom. The space collapsed and a burly figure appeared in the space. He held a saber and slashed at Suemo. The saber radiance was shocking and terrifying. Lu Ming blocked the attack with his combat sword, and there was an explosion of a terrifying roar. The space within a radius of 10 million miles was completely destroyed. The terrifying power landed on the ground and the earth cracked. Gullies that were 10 million miles long appeared. Magma erupted from the depths of the earth and it was a doomsday scene. Heaven and earth were destroyed. Heaven and earth were truly destroyed. The entire Taiching sky domain was shaken. At this moment, those who had some cultivation in the heaven domain could feel that a terrifying battle was about to break out. The pressure of the deities filled the entire heaven domain and everyone had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall them. Have the people from outside come in? Xian Yanqing stood in the air at the Dragon Emperor peak with deep worry in his eyes. He then stepped out and headed towards the heaven-suppressing seal. Is it an expert from the primitive universe? Have the experts from the primitive universe come? Lu Ming, Ancestor Dragon, are they fighting with the outsiders? At this moment, everyone was discussing and guessing. There was a fear in everyone's heart. However, they had no choice but to wait. They could not participate in the battle of the deities and could only wait for the result. Let's go and take a look. Some demigods headed towards the heaven-suppressing seal. After all, the battle was the most intense in that direction. They also felt the battle in the south of the Taiching sky domain, but it was not as intense. However, these demigods did not dare to get too close and could only watch from afar. Chapter 2566. Lu Ming. Xian Yanqing appeared tens of millions of miles away from the heaven-suppressing rune, watching the battle from afar. Lu Ming, you have to hold on. In another direction, Dandan's figure also appeared, her face grave. Qing Tsang, Titan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Demon Silkworm, Chaos Emperor, and the others appeared one after another. They looked at the apocalyptic scene in front of them and were deeply shocked. The battle between the deities was too terrifying. They could not interfere at all. If they went over, they would be crushed into powder by the aftermath. Lu Ming, all the demigods muttered as they looked forward. At this moment, Lu Ming was surrounded by three figures. One was the horned man and the other was the giant python. They were as big as a mountain and their eyes were cold as they looked at Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was most concerned about the third figure. It was a bald man. However, his bald head was covered with black runes, which looked extremely strange. He was holding a saber that was bigger than a man. The last attack was made by him. Second level empty god realm. Lu Ming muttered to himself. After blocking the attack, Lu Ming judged that the bald man's strength was far above that of the horned man and the giant python. It was highly likely that he was a second level empty god realm being. The Sovereign Tao. I didn't expect someone to master the Sovereign Tao in a small thousand world. Master will be very happy to use it to refine medicine. The bald man licked his lips and his eyes were extremely cold. He suddenly stepped forward and slashed the saber that was taller than a man at Lu Ming. Lu Ming also waved his sword and the two clashed again. Clang. A terrifying explosion sounded as the saber radiance and sword chi collided. Lu Ming's body shook and he was forced to retreat. Second level empty god realm is indeed powerful. Ancestor Dragon is right. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. When he was a one-star heavenly emperor, he could fight against a level 1 empty god. However, now that he had broken through to a 2-star heavenly emperor, he could not fight against a level 2 empty god. That was because the gap between breaking through one level in heavenly emperor realm was not as great as breaking through one level in void god realm. Unless he had broken through to a 3-star heavenly emperor, he would not be able to fight against a level 2 empty god. Bang, bang, bang. After the bald man repelled Lu Ming, he continued to step forward. His divine power erupted, and his battle saber slashed forward continuously. Lu Ming unleashed his full strength, and his entire body was enveloped by the power of a ruler. His battle sword vibrated, and he slashed out numerous sword lights to resist his opponent. At the same time, Lu Ming kept using the battle formula, trying to trigger the double combat power. This time Lu Ming was more unlucky. He had already triggered it more than 10 times, but he still hadn't triggered double combat power. Clang, clang. After exchanging over 10 moves in a row, Lu Ming was pushed back over 100,000 miles, blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth. Heaven-suppressing rune, watch me tear it apart. The bald man laughed heartily, and a shocking saber light was about to slash at the heaven-suppressing rune. Boom. At this critical moment, Lu Ming finally triggered double combat power, and his combat power skyrocketed. Swoosh. Lu Ming turned into a beam of rainbow light, arrived in front of the bald man in an instant, and slashed out with his sword. The power of this sword was much stronger than before. The bald man's face changed and he raised his saber to block. Dong. The bald man was directly sent flying by Lu Ming's sword. Kill. Lu Ming roared and he raised his speed to the maximum, rushing forward. However, he didn't kill the bald man but the single-horned man. What? The single-horned man was shocked. He didn't expect Lu Ming to suddenly explode and send the bald man flying. Initially, he thought that the bald burly man would be able to crush and kill Lu Ming. Instinctively, he raised the weapon in his hand to block, but when his weapon collided with Lu Ming's combat sword, he felt an irresistible force surging toward him. Clang. The weapon in the single-horned man's hand flew out directly, and his arm directly exploded. He screamed, blood spurting from his mouth, and his body flew far away. How could Lu Ming miss this opportunity? Whoosh. Lu Ming rushed out and slashed out a second time. Save. The single-horned man roared in horror, but he only shouted one word before he was split in half by Lu Ming's sword. The single-horned man was dead. Fast to the extreme. From the moment Lu Ming attacked to the moment he killed the single-horned man, it only took a moment. After killing the single-horned man, Lu Ming didn't stop at all, and charged toward the giant python. Retreat. The bald man reacted the fastest. With a roar, he charged toward Lu Ming with his combat sword. Whoosh, whoosh. The bald man slashed out hundreds of times in a row, and streaks of terrifying Dao light crushed the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Clang. Lu Ming slashed horizontally, breaking through hundreds of saber gleams. However, in this way the giant python finally seized the opportunity and retreated rapidly. At the same time, its body shrank and turned into a giant python that was a few meters long. Its eyes were full of fear. This person is strange. Let's work together to deal with him. The bald man roared and charged toward Lu Ming. At the same time, the giant python also attacked. It opened its mouth and spat out a black thin sword that looked like a small snake. It charged toward Lu Ming at a strange and tricky angle, and its speed was astonishing. However, Lu Ming ignored the attack of the giant python and rushed toward it directly. Lu Ming's goal was very simple. He wanted to get rid of the weak first and then deal with the strong one. Die for me. The giant python's eyes were cold. It retreated and controlled the snake-shaped sword to stab toward Lu Ming. Whoosh! The snake-shaped sword approached Lu Ming's forehead. However, just as it was about to stab Lu Ming's forehead, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with a purple-gold light. Ruler. Lu Ming's mind moved, and the power of a ruler erupted and acted on the snake-shaped sword. Buzz! The snake-shaped sword deviated and flew past Lu Ming's ear. However, Lu Ming's figure didn't stop and continued to charge toward the giant python. Not good. The giant python's expression changed drastically, and it frantically retreated. The bald man roared and chased from behind. At this moment, a terrifying attractive force acted on Lu Ming's body above his head, causing Lu Ming's figure to suddenly stop. Kid, die for me. A loud roar came from the sky, and a huge figure suddenly appeared. This figure was blood-red with a wide mouth and sharp fangs. It had a pair of blood-red wings, and it was extremely similar to the human-shaped bat that Lu Ming had killed earlier. It was obvious that they were from the same clan. However, this human-shaped bat's cultivation was obviously stronger, and it wasn't any weaker than the bald man's. Its wings were like a storm as they slashed toward Lu Ming. Another second-level empty god realm existence. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed again. How many experts had entered the Yuan Luo Hall? This was what made Lu Ming feel the most uncertain. However, he could only fight now. The battle sword in his hand vibrated, and it shot out rays of sword light to fight against the blood-red bat above his head. At the same time, Lu Ming rushed into the sky and became one with his sword. Chapter 2567. Lu Ming unleashed all of his strength and became one with his sword. He turned into a dazzling sword radiance and charged towards the human-shaped bat. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. One of the human-shaped bat's wings was almost chopped off. He screamed and retreated quickly. When Lu Ming had not activated the fight mantra to double his combat strength had been weaker than a level 2 empty god. However, after activating the fight mantra, his combat strength had surpassed that of a level 2 empty god. Kill? Lu Ming stared at the human-shaped bat and slashed at it continuously. However, the bald man had arrived and joined forces with the human-shaped bat to fight Lu Ming. As for the giant python, it was hiding in the distance, controlling the snake-shaped thin sword to sneak an attack on Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! The two sides continued to fight, and after dozens of blows, Lu Ming still had the upper hand even though he was fighting against 3 people. Poof! One of the human-shaped bat's wings was completely chopped off by Lu Ming. Blood splattered everywhere and covered the mountaintop. Ah boy, you ant, I'm going to twist your head off, the human-shaped bat roared angrily. However, it was greeted by a sword radiance from Lu Ming. The sword radiance flashed and one of the human-shaped bat's wings was almost chopped off. It was so frightened that it retreated continuously. Clang! Lu Ming turned around and struck the bald burly man with his sword. The bald burly man was sent flying by the impact. Damn it, why is this boy so strong? The bald man's face darkened and he retreated to the giant python's side. The human-shaped bat also hurried to the bald man's side. The 3 of them gathered together and did not dare to separate. What should we do? This boy is too strong. We can't kill him and we can't tear open the heaven suppression charm. The giant python said. Where is Su-Tu? Why isn't he here yet? If he is here he can deal with this boy. The human-shaped bat said. Humph, what a piece of trash. You can't even deal with a native of the small thousand world. Suddenly, a cold and arrogant voice rang out. The void trembled and a figure appeared out of thin air. This figure looked like a human and had a well-proportioned body. However, his eyes were cold and filled with a faint arrogance. Su-Tu. The bald man, the human-shaped bat, and the giant python were overjoyed when they saw this person. Su-Tu, this person has mastered the Tao of the Sovereign. It's best not to kill him. Capture him alive and present him to the young master. The bald man said. Understood. Su-Tu nodded. He looked at Lu Ming and said indifferently, Young lad, surrender yourself. You can save yourself some physical pain. If you want to take me down, let's see if you have the ability. Lu Ming said coldly. The purplish gold glow on his body was getting stronger. However, his heart was very heavy because he could not see through this person called Su-Tu at all. You're? Su-Tu's cold voice could be heard. He then took a step forward. In an instant he was near Lu Ming and threw a punch. Boom. This punch contained an astonishing and terrifying power. The terrifying power filled the void and crushed toward Lu Ming like an avalanche. There was no way to dodge. He could only take it head-on. Lu Ming let out a low roar. He gathered all his energy and slashed with his sword with all his might. Boom. Lu Ming felt as if he had slashed an iron wall. Endless power surged and the battle sword shook. It almost flew out of his body. Lu Ming was sent flying by the punch. His body smashed into the ground like a meteor. The ground shook violently, and a huge crater with a circumference of hundreds of thousands of li appeared. Everything was reduced to ashes and cracks spread out for tens of millions of li. Fortunately, all the living beings within hundreds of millions of miles of the heaven-suppressing rune had been evacuated. Otherwise, who knew how many living beings would have died? Lu Ming. In the distance, Xian Yanqing turned pale with fright. Her eyes were filled with endless worry. Boom. In the next moment, a purplish golden light shot out from the huge pit. It was Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if his body was about to split apart. Waves of pain shot through his body. Even though he had activated the indestructible ancient scripture, it was useless and his recovery was slow. Such terrifying strength. Lu Ming was shocked. Su Tu was definitely a terrifying existence. His strength was far above level 2 empty god realm. Ancestral Gragon had said that the small thousand world would be dangerous for those above level 4 empty god realm. Therefore, Su Tu might be a level 3 empty god realm existence. Not bad, not bad. You still have the strength to struggle after receiving my attack. Your talent is not bad even in the chaotic universe. Unfortunately, your fate is sealed. Su Tu's eyes became colder and there was even a tinge of jealousy. Boom. A terrifying aura burst out from Su Tu's body. Rumble. Crack. In the sky, a deep rumbling sound rang out. An extremely terrifying scene appeared. With Su Tu as the center, the void exploded unceasingly. Numerous malevolent spatial cracks appeared. It was as if the entire world was about to crumble apart. The space of this small thousand world is really weak. However, it's just enough for me to unleash my strength. Kill. Su Tu's face was ferocious as he charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's pupils contracted rapidly. He was highly focused and his essence, qi and spirit were at their peak. Swoosh. Lu Ming retreated rapidly. You can't retreat. Su Tu's cold voice resounded. His speed was even faster and more shocking. He quickly approached Lu Ming and threw out a punch. Rumble. The empty space within a radius of a few million miles exploded in an instant, forming a terrifying spatial storm that swept towards Lu Ming. Terrifying. Su Tu's strength was too terrifying. Every move he made had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. If he unleashed his full strength and bombarded the ground, he could definitely destroy the entire Taiching sky domain. No wonder the ancestral Gragon said that if a powerful existence entered a small thousand world, it would collapse. The stability of a small thousand world was incomparable to that of the primitive universe. In the face of Su Tu's attack, Lu Ming could not avoid it. Break, break, break. Lu Ming roared and slashed out with his battle sword. However, Su Tu's strength was too strong. Lu Ming felt his battle sword vibrate violently and his body was sent flying again. He hit the ground and the ground kept cracking. Lu Ming vomited a mouthful of blood. He was seriously injured. He took out a fruit of life and swallowed it. As soon as he swallowed the fruit of life, his injuries healed rapidly. You have this kind of divine medicine, but it's useless. Su Tu stepped forward and threw out a series of punches. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of terrifying fist force crushed out. Lu Ming did not have the ability to resist at all. He was hit continuously and slammed hard onto the ground. This time, Lu Ming's body almost exploded. His body was covered with cracks and he no longer looked human. Even with the fruit of life, it was difficult to recover. Chapter 2568. Lu Ming. In the distance, Xian Yanqing's eyes turned red when she saw this. She clenched her teeth, and a look of determination appeared in her eyes. Her body began to emit a black light. Her hands rapidly formed seals, and her aura began to rapidly rise. Su Tu, the bald man, and the others looked at Xian Yanqing in surprise. Interesting. This small thousand world is really interesting, Su Tu muttered as his eyes burned with excitement. Suddenly, the space beside Xian Yanqing flashed and Xian Yanjuan appeared. Xian Yanqing, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? Your foundation will be destroyed and you'll be a cripple in the future. Xian Yanjuan scolded. I'm not out of my mind. I have to save Lu Ming. I can't watch him die. Xian Yanqing's eyes were filled with determination. Even if you use that secret technique, you're still no match for them. Also, are you not going to do that thing for Lu Ming? Xian Yanjuan scolded. That's the Tang family's matter. I'm not a member of the Tang family. My surname is Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanqing said. Xian Yanjuan was speechless. Indeed, Xian Yanqing had devoured the memories of her past life. Strictly speaking, she was no longer a member of the Tang family. Xian Yanqing's aura grew stronger as if it was about to reach the martial god realm. This is Dandan, the Chaos the Arch, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the others looked at Xian Yanqing in shock. Am I going to die here today? Underground, Lu Ming lay in a deep pit that was tens of thousands of miles deep. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Su Tu was too powerful. He was no match for Su Tuesday. He had given it his all and the battle character skill had doubled his combat strength. His combat strength had reached its peak and he was able to suppress a level 2 empty god. However, he was still no match for Su Tuesday. It was completely one-sided. What to do? Lu Ming was unwilling to give up. Once he gave up, the heaven-suppressing rune would be opened and the experts of the Yuan Luo Hall would enter. The living beings of the heaven domain would most likely be doomed. His parents, Xian Yanqing, his son, granddaughter, and friends were all in danger. He had to protect them. Ruler of the world. If I can control the power of this world, I can deal with Su Tu. That's right. The reason why the heavenly Tao suppressed me was because it was afraid that I would dominate it. Now I have broken through. Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Suddenly Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Since the heavenly Tao was afraid of him breaking through, but now that he had broken through, could he have the power to dominate this world? Immediately, Lu Ming's spiritual sense spread out infinitely. Ruler, give me control. I am the ruler of this world. Lu Ming roared in his heart as his body emitted a dazzling purple-gold light. Rumble. At this moment, the entire world was shaking. Endless energy suddenly surged towards Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt that the entire heaven domain, even the Yuan realm and the evil god world were under his control. He could use the power of the entire world. This is... Su Tu's pupils shrank rapidly as shock filled his eyes. Damn it. Kill. Su Tu roared. He unleashed his full strength and punched continuously, bursting out terrifying attacks. Waves of terrifying fist energy blasted towards Lu Ming. However, a wave of energy formed around Lu Ming's body and blocked all of Su Tu's fist energy. How can this be? Quick, attack together. Attack together and interrupt him. Su Tu could no longer maintain his composure and roared. The bald burly man and the other two attacked at the same time. All kinds of attacks bombarded Lu Ming. However, they were all blocked by the energy around Lu Ming's body. That is, at this moment, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and the others in the distance were also shocked. Xian Yanqing was about to use some kind of secret technique to advance and retreat with Lu Ming at all costs. At this moment, the secret technique also stopped. Her aura fell again. Is this the power of the entire world? It's too terrifying. At this moment, Lu Ming was in a strange state. He seemed to be able to mobilize the power of the entire world. Then let's kill. A cold, murderous intent burst out from Lu Ming's eyes. The battle sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. This slash mobilized the power of the entire world. Bam! A sword light slashed out, and the attacks of Su Tu and the other three collapsed. The sword light did not stop and slashed towards the four of them. Not good. Su Tu and the other three's faces changed drastically as they frantically retreated. However, the sword light was faster. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. The bald man, the bat humanoid, and the giant python all came to a sudden stop. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Following that, their bodies directly exploded, turning into ashes and disappearing. Only Su Tu retreated. He spat out a mouthful of blood and a long sword mark appeared on his chest. He had almost been cut in half. Mobilizing the power of the entire small thousand world. Damn it, D***. This is equivalent to the power of a level 4 empty god realm. Su Tu roared in anger and fear. He retreated quickly, tearing the space apart as he tried to escape. Trying to escape? In this world I am the master. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. A huge hand suddenly appeared behind Su Tuesday. It was extremely huge and it pressed down on Su Tuesday. Bam! Su Yu was sent flying like an eagle, slamming into the ground. Everything within tens of millions of kilometers around him was destroyed. Su Tu spat out a mouthful of blood and his body almost exploded. The situation at the scene was completely different from what had happened just now. Damn it, D***. Su Tu roared in his heart. He glanced at Xian Yanqing and the others and a ferocious look flashed across his eyes. He dashed out towards Xian Yanqing and the others. He wanted to capture Xian Yanqing and threaten Lu Ming. However, the entire world was under Lu Ming's control. How could he let Su Tu do as he wished? Su Tu moved and a spear radiance appeared in front of him. It pierced through Su Tu's body and nailed him to the ground. Su Tu struggled with all his might. However, Lu Ming mobilized the power of heaven and earth to suppress him, making him unable to move. Ah, you are courting death. Do you think you can live after killing me? When the true experts of Yuan Luo Hall take action, your small thousand world will be destroyed. Su Tu roared in anger. F***CKU. Lu Ming arrived above Su Tu and slashed down with his sword. Poof. Su Tu was killed on the spot. Up until now, Lu Ming had killed several gods in front of the heaven-suppressing talisman. Including the first one, he had killed a total of 6 gods. Rip. At this moment, the space not far away cracked and Ancestral Gregon appeared. At this moment, Ancestral Gregon was covered in blood and injuries. Fortunately, he was fine. After an intense battle, Ancestral Gregon successfully killed his opponent. Ancestral Gregon's strength was about the same as his opponent's. However, his opponent was injured and weakened by the heaven-suppressing rune. In the end, he was killed by Ancestral Gregon. Chapter 2569. Senior Ancestral Gregon, please wait for a moment. Let me look around and see if there are any experts from Yuan Luo Hall. Lu Ming said to Ancestral Gregon. After that, Lu Ming closed his eyes. At this moment, Lu Ming dominated this part of the world. Therefore, he could sense any place in the heaven realm, and the evil god realm. He could even sense it in the dark void. There is one more person. In the dark void, Lu Ming sensed a powerful existence. He should be at level 2 empty god realm. He was sitting cross-legged in the void and healing himself. Suddenly, the person opened his eyes and looked shocked. He turned around and ran away. Do you think you can run away? Lu Ming sneered. He gathered the power of the heaven and earth to form a combat sword and slashed down. The person screamed in pain and was killed. A level 2 empty god realm expert could not withstand one blow from Lu Ming. Lu Ming was too powerful. He could dominate the heaven and earth and gather the power of the heaven and earth. He was comparable to a level 4 empty god realm expert. It was easy for him to kill a level 2 empty god realm expert. Then Lu Ming continued to search. However, he did not find any traces of other experts. The experts from Yuan Luo Hall who had entered the area had all been killed. At that moment, Lu Ming's aura returned to normal. As for his injuries, he had also completely recovered. Lu Ming, did you gather the power of the heaven and earth just now? Ancestral Gregon looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming nodded. Then he waved his hand and the storage rings left behind by the experts were collected by Lu Ming. Lu Ming, are you okay? At that moment, Xian Yanqing flew over with a concerned look. Then Dandan and the others flew over. I'm fine. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. After chatting for a while, the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others left. Not long after, the news of Lu Ming killing the deities spread. Many people were shocked when they heard about it. Lu Ming had killed the deities by himself. That was a god. It was like a myth. Lu Ming's prestige in the hearts of everyone in the heaven had reached the peak, even surpassing that of the ancestral dragon. In their opinion, Lu Ming was the deity of the deities. However, Lu Ming and Ancestral Gregon. In the area of the heaven-suppressing talisman, Ancestral Dragon and Lu Ming were discussing matters. This can't go on. If the Yuan Luo Palace finds out that they've failed, they'll surely send out even stronger experts. Ancestral Gregon frowned. Senior, what should we do now? Asked Gregon. Asked. A small kiliacosm is a great fortune for the Yuan Luo Palace. Under normal circumstances they wouldn't bear to destroy it. However, we can't guarantee that they won't do such a thing in a fit of anger. If they send someone above level 4 empty god realm, they can completely destroy the heaven region, Yuan realm and evil god realm. Ancestral Gregon frowned and pondered. After a while he said, now there's only one way to survive. Senior, please tell me, said Lu Ming. That is to take the initiative to attack. Now the Yuan Luo Palace doesn't know that the people they sent in have been wiped out. They must be waiting for good news. Therefore, the forces outside the heaven-suppressing rune shouldn't be too strong. Now, if we take the initiative to attack and tear open the heaven-suppressing rune and rush out, we might have a chance to succeed, said Ancestral Gregon. Rush out? Lu Ming muttered. He pondered for a while and said, all right, let's go. Lu Ming was a decisive person. If they continued to stay here, they could only wait for death. However, if they rushed out, they might have a chance to survive. However, there's an important problem if we rush out. It's the problem of your small kiliacosm. said Ancestral Gragon. The problem of the small kiliacosm? Lu Ming was confused. If they wanted to rush out, they would have to take most of the living beings into the small kiliacosm and bring them out. The chaotic universe is a truly ancient and perfect world. It's a true great thousand world. A small kiliacosm can't coexist with such a world. Therefore, once you enter the chaotic universe, the small kiliacosm will leave your body within a year and merge with the chaotic universe. It will become a part of the chaotic universe, said Ancestral Gragon. What? The small kiliacosm will merge with the chaotic universe? Lu Ming's expression changed. In that case, wouldn't his cultivation drop rapidly? However, there's one thing you don't have to worry about. The chaotic universe is fair. When your small kiliacosm merges with it, it will give you the same amount of energy. Therefore, your strength won't drop. However, the creatures you bring out will all be exposed. This way our tracks will be exposed. Therefore, once we leave, we must find a safe place to settle everyone down within a year, said Ancestral Gragon. I see. Only a year? Lu Ming muttered. In other words, after they got out, they had to get out of danger within a year. Otherwise, it might be even more dangerous. Lu Ming, you can decide on this matter, said Ancestral Gragon. Let's do it, Lu Ming said with a determined look. Instead of waiting for death, it was better to fight to the death. Ancestral Gragon's eyes were filled with admiration. There were not many people who could be so decisive. Alright, since we've decided to rush out, we have to do it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the other party will react and gather more experts, said Ancestral Gragon. Then the two of them discussed and split up. They wanted to gather most of the living beings in the heaven realm. Fortunately, many of the humans in the heaven realm cultivated the law system and had opened up a small kiliacosm that could hold a large number of living beings. Lu Ming first returned to the Dragon Emperor Peak and told everyone about his plan. Everyone agreed and then spread the news. The entire heaven realm began to move. Most people were willing to fight to the death when they heard about the plan because staying here would only lead to death. Some people in the small kiliacosm took the surrounding people and divine beasts into their small kiliacosm and then rushed to the place where the heaven-suppressing rune was. In just 10 days, almost all the places in the heaven realm were emptied. Many ordinary people were also taken into the small kiliacosm. Then everyone gathered the heaven-suppressing rune. Then Lu Ming took everyone into his small kiliacosm. In this way, most of the living beings in the heaven realm were taken into the small kiliacosm by Lu Ming. The heaven realm suddenly became empty. Under the heaven-suppressing rune, only Lu Ming and Ancestral Gragon were left. Lu Ming, let's begin, said Ancestral Gragon. Okay. Lu Ming nodded, and the two of them began to tear the heaven-suppressing rune. It was easy to tear the heaven-suppressing rune from the inside of the heaven realm, especially with Lu Ming's power that could dominate this world. Not long after, the heaven-suppressing rune was finally torn off by the two of them, revealing a dark passage. Chapter 2570. Lu Ming, it's all up to you. Ancestral Gragon turned into a ray of light and flew into Lu Ming's small world, disappearing. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation was stronger than Ancestral Gragon's, and there were fewer people, so it was easier for them to move around. Chaos Universe, I'm coming, Lu Ming muttered, then turned back to look at the heaven domain. After they left, Yuan Luo Palace would definitely not destroy the heaven domain, the primordial realm, and the evil god domain. They would definitely let living beings in and turn them into pastures. One day I will take back this place, Lu Ming muttered, then stepped into the passage and disappeared. The chaos universe was vast and boundless. It was also known as the divine domain. This was the final path for all the experts in the small world. After all the living beings in the small world cultivated to the demigod realm, they would leave the small world and enter the chaos universe. There were countless experts and deities gathered here. There were countless planets in the chaos universe that were suitable for living beings to live in. There were also countless planets, big and small, and countless forces. The chaotic galaxy was a famous chaotic place in the chaos universe. Countless races and evil people gathered there. In this boundless galaxy, there were many planets with life as well as many forces of different sizes. Yuan Luo Palace was one of the forces. It occupied more than a dozen planets with life and countless experts. Kong Long was the young master of Yuan Luo Palace. He was very talented and had cultivated to the demigod realm at a young age. The Yuan Luo Palace master thought highly of him and specially assigned a planet to Kong Long as his territory. This planet was Planet Dark Underworld. Planet Dark Underworld was extremely huge. Half of it was land and the other half was ocean. Its territory was not something the heaven domain, the primordial realm, and the evil god domain could compare to. Even if the heaven domain, the primordial realm, and the evil god domain were added together, the area was not even 1/10,000th of planet Dark Underworld. The heaven domain, the primordial realm, and the evil god domain were all small worlds attached to planet Dark Underworld, and their passages were connected to planet Dark Underworld. This was a boundless mountain range. At the peak of a mountain, Kong Long was sitting on a chair. Two young women were massaging his shoulders. "Is there still no news from that small world?" Kong Long asked. He had a bald head and there were some black runes on his bald head. He looked very similar to one of the burly men who had entered the heaven realm. They were from the same clan. "Young master, there's still no news." At the side, an old man bowed and reported. "What a bunch of trash. You've been in there for more than 10 days and there's still no news. You've spent so much time on a small world. I've really raised you in vain." Condor's face darkened. On the side, other than the old man, there were two other large men. However, at this moment, all of them were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to utter a word. "Give them another month. If there's still no news after a month, you guys can directly attack and destroy that small kiliacosm. It's just a small kiliacosm, this young master doesn't want it." Kong Long gritted his teeth. "Yes, yes." At the side, the others nodded repeatedly. Suddenly, a voice sounded out from afar. "Young master, there's movement in that lesser thousand world." A skinny young man who was not much older than Kong Long flew over and said, "There's movement. I think Su Tu and the others have settled it. Let's go and take a look." Kong Long took the lead and flew forward. The others followed. In front of them there was a valley. In the valley there was a huge black vortex that was constantly rotating. When Kong Long and the others arrived, they heard a constant rumbling sound coming from the black vortex. Not long after, the sound disappeared. "It's coming." Kong Long and the others' eyes moved. They saw a figure appear in the vortex. Then the silhouette slowly became clearer. Kong Long and the others were stunned. This was because they did not know the figure. It was not one of their men. It was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. He was handsome and tall. This young man was naturally Lu Ming, who had come from the heaven realm. "Stop him." Kong Long saw that it was not one of his men and waved his hand. Suddenly, the 5 or 6 large men who were guarding here moved and surrounded Lu Ming. An astonishing aura burst out. "Empty God Realm, they're all in the Empty God Realm. They're all at level 2 and level 3 of the Empty God Realm." Lu Ming's pupils suddenly shrank. This is bad. These people's cultivation levels were too high. Among the 6 large men who surrounded Lu Ming could feel that at least 2 of them were not weaker than Su Tuesday. They were at level 3 of the Empty God Realm. The other 4 were at level 2 of the Empty God Realm. As for the young man not far away, Lu Ming could tell that he was at Demigod Realm. However, the 2 large men and an elder behind the young man were unfathomable. It was impossible to estimate their cultivation levels. Lu Ming's heart sank. This kind of power was not something he could fight against. In the Heaven Realm, Lu Ming could dominate the Primordial Realm and Evil God Realm. He could directly mobilize the energy of the Primordial Realm and Evil God Realm. Therefore, he could easily kill a level 3 Empty God Realm existence. However, after leaving the Heaven Realm and coming to the chaotic universe, Lu Ming naturally could not mobilize the energy of the Primordial Realm and Evil God Realm. Even if Lu Ming activated double combat strength, he would not be a match for a level 3 Empty God Realm expert. Needless to say, there were stronger existences. However, Lu Ming would not sit still and wait for death. He instinctively released his aura and was cautious. Only at the transformation void martial realm? When they saw Lu Ming's aura, not only was Kong Long stunned, but the others were also stunned. Then they relaxed and revealed a relaxed expression. He was just at the transformation void martial realm. Any one of them could easily suppress him. What was there to be nervous about? Originally they thought that Lu Ming was a great expert. Lu Ming saw the expressions of the crowd. Lu Ming's heart jumped and he had a plan. A transformation void martial realm expert. Did you sneak out?" Kong Long asked coldly. He thought that Lu Ming must have sneaked out when Su Tu and the others were not prepared. "That's right. What do you want?" Lu Ming pretended to have a drastic change in expression. He retreated continuously, looking nervous. "You really sneaked out." Kong Long sneered and said, "Let me ask you. How are the people who entered your world? What are they doing?" "Those despicable guys are slaughtering and killing innocent people. They are simply inhumane." Lu Ming pretended to be infuriated. He was infuriated. "Ha!" Kong Long and the others laughed out loud. "Forget it. Let them play." Kid, kneel down and surrender. I have something to ask you. Kong Long waved his hand. You want me to surrender? Don't even think about it. I am the top genius of the heaven realm. I see that you are not old. I challenge you now. Do you dare to accept the challenge? Lu Ming shouted. How dare you? What qualifications do you have to challenge the young master? You are just an ant. I will kill you with one palm. A burly man said ferociously. Wait. Kong Long waved his hand and stopped the burly man. Chapter 2571. Kong Long waved his hand and stopped the burly man. He looked at Lu Ming with interest and said, You're the top genius of your world? That's right. You don't look old. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Lu Ming said loudly. How long have you been cultivating? If you've been cultivating for too long, you're not qualified to be my opponent. Kong Long said proudly. I've been cultivating for more than 8,000 years. Lu Ming said arrogantly. He had heard from the ancestral Gragon that those who hadn't cultivated for more than 10,000 years were considered the top geniuses of the younger generation in the chaotic universe. Therefore he said 8,000 years. It's not bad to have such a cultivation after 8,000 years. Alright, I'll play with you. Kong Long said proudly and stepped forward. He was curious about the skills of a top genius from a small kiliacosm. As a top genius himself, he naturally wanted to test Lu Ming's skills. Young master, don't take risks, a burly man said worriedly. What did you say? Take risks? Are you looking down on me? Do you think I'll lose to a native from a small kiliacosm? Kong Long stopped and looked at the burly man coldly. His face was gloomy. The burly man's expression changed drastically. His back was drenched in cold sweat as he knelt down in fear. Young master, this subordinate didn't mean that. This subordinate didn't mean that. Please spare my life, young master. Kong Long was the son of the Yuan Luo Palace master. He was talented and loved. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been given the entire planet Dark Underworld as his territory. Moreover, Kong Long's methods were cruel, and he killed people without batting an eyelid. Provoking him would only result in death. It would be strange if he wasn't scared to death. I've been cultivating for more than 500 years and I've reached the demigod realm. My combat strength is enough to kill a rank 1 empty god. What are you afraid of? Do you think a native from a small kiliacosm can harm me? Kong Long said again and his voice became colder. No, how could that be? Young master is a peerless genius. How could this bumpkin be a match for young master? Yes. I dare to bet that this native won't be able to withstand 3 moves from young master. No, 1 move is enough. The others spoke one after another, flattering him. Only then did Kong Long's expression become a little better. Step back, don't get in the way. Kong Long waved his hand. The others could only retreat. In their opinion, Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage. Moreover, a native of the spirit space was not a threat to Kong Long at all. They were very relieved about this. Seeing this, Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had achieved his goal. As long as these people looked down on him, he would challenge Kong Long and take the opportunity to take Kong Long hostage. Only then would he have a chance to survive. He put on an act and Kong Long fell for it. At the same time he was secretly shocked. Kong Long had only cultivated for about 500 years, and he had already reached the demigod realm. This was an unbelievable feat in the heavenly world, primordial realm and fiend god realm. He had cultivated for less than 500 years, but he was different and could not be judged according to common sense. Moreover, in terms of cultivation he had not reached the demigod realm. In addition, people like Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and Dandan could not be judged according to common sense. However, Kong Long was able to cultivate to the demigod realm in 500 years. This talent was extremely shocking. Moreover, he had said that his combat strength was comparable to a level 1 empty god realm existence. The chaotic universe was indeed not comparable to the heavenly world, primordial realm, or fiend god realm. As soon as Lu Ming came out, he encountered a powerful supreme talent. Young man, make your move. Let me see what a native of the spirit space is capable of. Kong Long stepped forward and was not far away from Lu Ming, his face full of arrogance. Boom. Lu Ming made his move. However, he did not use the path of the sovereign. Instead, he used the strength of his physical body to throw out a punch. What a stable space. When he threw out a punch, Lu Ming felt that something was different. His current physical strength was equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor. If he was in the heavenly world, primordial realm, or fiend god realm, the space would collapse into pieces with a punch. But now, when he threw out a punch, he found that the space was incomparably stable. Not even a trace of ripple was produced. Insignificant skill. A disdainful smile appeared on Kong Long's face as he punched out as well. His fist was covered with a thin layer of divine power. Boom. The two fists collided heavily. Then Lu Ming's body shook violently and he retreated, spitting out a mouthful of blood. With this little strength, you are also the #1 supreme talent of a spirit space? A spirit space is indeed a native. Old bumpkin, I will cripple you now and take you back to refined medicine. Kong Long's contempt grew. With a wave of his hand, he attacked Lu Ming continuously. When the others saw that Lu Ming was beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Kong Long, they immediately relaxed. In their opinion, Lu Ming was indeed an ordinary void transformation realm martial artist. It was impossible for him to be Kong Long's opponent. Lu Ming tried his best to resist, pretending to be defeated. In fact, he was secretly triggering the battle formula. Kong Long's cultivation was in the demigod realm. His combat strength was indeed very strong, far surpassing the demigods that Lu Ming had encountered. In the heavenly world, primordial realm, and fiend god realm, there were no other demigods who could compare to him. He was not lying when he said that he could fight with a first-level nihility god. Therefore, Lu Ming wanted to trigger double combat strength so that he could suppress Kong Long in one fell swoop before the others could react. Haha kid, kneel down and beg for mercy. Maybe I can spare you and spare your life. Kong Long laughed arrogantly, his attacks becoming more and more violent. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The double combat strength of the battle formula was triggered. Is that so? There was a strange smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. Boom. Lu Ming counterattacked. He stretched out his hand and the Sovereign's Dao exploded, directly defeating Kong Long's attack. He grabbed Kong Long's wrist and shook it forcefully. Crack. Kong Long's body shook like a sieve, his bones breaking inch by inch. At the same time, Lu Ming clasped Kong Long's neck. Kong Long was like a pile of mud, unable to move at all. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. By the time the others realized it, it was too late. What's going on? Kid, what are you doing? Let go of young master. You're courting death. The others roared in anger, releasing a terrifying aura. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. The two burly men and an old man behind Kong Long were definitely above the 4th-level nihility god realm. They were extremely terrifying. If you take a step forward, he will die, Lu Ming said coldly. The Sovereign's Dao shrouded Kong Long. As long as he willed it, Kong Long would die. Those people stopped in their tracks, not daring to take a step forward. Kid, despicable native, let go of me quick. At this moment, Kong Long roared in anger. Of course, he now understood that Lu Ming had been putting on an act previously. He had deliberately pretended to be weak so that he could take advantage of the situation to trap him. Chapter 2572. Let you go? You're really naive. Wouldn't I be courting death if I let you go now? Lu Ming sneered. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he glanced at the surrounding people and said, "Move aside, let me leave. Otherwise I'll kill him." You dare? Kid, do you know who he is? He's the young master of the Yuan Luo Hall, the son of the Yuan Luo Hall master. You'll suffer a miserable fate if you dare to touch him. Do you understand? The old man roared. His eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. If it wasn't for Kong Long, he would have slapped Lu Ming to death with a single palm strike. The son of the Yuan Luo Hall master? That's even better. If I kill him, all of you will probably die with him. Come, we'll die together. Lu Ming said coldly. You, the old man and the two burly men were furious. They almost vomited blood from anger, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Lu Ming was right. Kong Long was favored by the Yuan Luo Hall master. The Yuan Luo Hall master was famous for his ruthlessness. If Kong Long really died, they would be buried with him. Kid, you're finished? Let me tell you, you have nowhere to go. I'm going to kill you and everyone in your pocket dimension. I won't let a single one of them go. All of them will die. Kong Long roared madly. He was furious when he thought about how he was captured by a native of a pocket dimension. Wouldn't he become a laughingstock if news of this were to spread? Impatient, Lu Ming said coldly. Then he swung his palm like a blade and sent one of Kong Long's arms flying. Kong Long let out a miserable shriek. Although at his level, even if his body was torn apart, he would be able to recover very quickly. However, that kind of pain was real. How dare you? You're courting death. The others roared furiously. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll directly cripple his divine flame next time. Now all of you move aside and let me leave. I'll naturally let him go. Lu Ming said coldly. Let the young master go first and we'll let you leave. The old man said. Do you think I'm stupid? If I let him go, you'd better kill me immediately and let me leave first. Otherwise, I can only cripple him first. Lu Ming's sovereign lord power transformed into a sharp sword that stabbed into Kong Long's dantian, wanting to destroy his divine flame. Get out of the way, you idiots, get out of the way. Let him go, let him go. Kong Long roared hysterically. He was scared. He was really scared. Once the divine flame was destroyed, his cultivation would be crippled. So what if he let one Lu Ming go? In his heart, even 10,000 or 100 million Lu Mings were not as important as a single strand of his hair. He swore that once he escaped, he would definitely send experts to capture Lu Ming and grind Lu Ming's bones into ashes. The people at the side had ugly expressions, but now they could only step aside. The old man and the others retreated to the sides. Whoosh! Lu Ming carried Kong Long and rushed out of the encirclement. Let go of the young master now. The old man roared. When I'm safe, I'll let him go. Also, you better not chase after me. Otherwise, I'll cripple him immediately. Lu Ming said coldly. The old man and the others were infuriated and wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. However, they did not dare to chase after him and could only watch helplessly. Lu Ming flew at full speed and disappeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Quick, report this to the higher-ups. Send experts above level 7 Empty God Realm to kill that brat and save the young master. Quick. The old man and the others immediately took action and left the place. Their cultivation level was still not high enough. If there was an expert above the 7th level of the Void God Realm, even if Lu Ming took down Kong Long, such a person would be able to kill him quickly and rescue Kong Long before Lu Ming could react. The old man and the others left the place while Lu Ming carried Kong Long and flew away quickly. The space of the Eldritch universe is too stable and the gravity is shockingly strong. As Lu Ming flew, he wanted to tear open the space and travel through it. However, he realized that he could not do so. In the Heaven Realm, with his cultivation, the space would automatically tear open when he took a step forward. He could travel from one world to another in an instant. However, he realized that even if he used all his strength, he could not tear open the space. Not even a ripple was produced, let alone tear open the space. Moreover, the gravity here was shocking. Lu Ming's flying speed was a few hundred times slower than when he was in the Heaven Realm. What a rich divine qi. Following which, Lu Ming took a deep breath. He could feel the surging divine aura between heaven and earth converging toward him like a tide. Yes, it was divine qi, not origin qi. The space here was filled with divine qi, which was exactly the same as the Yellow Spring Mountain. However, the divine qi in the Yellow Spring Mountain could not be compared to here. It was much thinner. Although the Yellow Spring Mountain was sealed there from the Eldritch universe, it was normal for the divine qi to be thin after such a long time. The cultivation environment here is too good. If I cultivate here, my cultivation speed will be at least 10 times faster than in the Heaven Realm. In some good places, it might even be faster. Lu Ming thought. No wonder Kong Long was a demigod in less than 500 years of cultivation. The cultivation environment here was completely incomparable to the Heaven Realm. The Eldritch universe, the Greater Thousand World, was known as the Divine World. It was the end of all the Lesser Thousand Worlds. Kid, we're already here. Let me go. Kong Long yelled again. Shut up and let you go. As far as I know, the entire Dark Underworld planet is the territory of the Yuan Luo Palace. If I let you go, wouldn't I be courting death? When I'm safe, I'll let you go. Lu Ming said coldly. You. Kong Long's anger soared to the sky, but under such circumstances, he could only endure it. Lu Ming kept flying. He purposely flew in a secluded place. After half a day, he had lost track of how far he had flown. He flew into a barren mountain and there was no one around. After flying there, Lu Ming stuffed Kong Long into the mountain river diagram and continued to fly forward. In the blink of an eye, another day had passed. Lu Ming flew into a barren mountain. Roar. Suddenly, a loud roar came from below. The roar was so loud that it shook the mountains. Then a bloody mouth rushed out from below and bit at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He unleashed all his strength and unleashed the Sovereign Tao to stomp down. The Sovereign Tao condensed into a giant purple gold foot and stomped on the mouth. With a loud boom, the purple gold foot collapsed and Lu Ming was sent flying by a powerful force. What a terrifying force. It's equivalent to a level 2 Empty God Realm martial artist. What is that? Lu Ming was shocked. With the help of this force he flew quickly. Bang, bang. The earth rumbled. Lu Ming saw a giant creature that was as big as a mountain. It stomped on the ground and chased after Lu Ming. Chapter 2573. It was a living creature that Lu Ming had never seen before. It was covered in scales and its hind legs were thick and strong. However, its front legs were very short and small, curled up in front of its body. Its head was like a lizard's and its mouth was huge and filled with terrifying fangs. Its hind legs were running at an astonishing speed. What surprised Lu Ming was that it was emitting a terrifying dragon power. Lu Ming did not bother with it and flew with all his might. Currently he had not triggered the double combat strength. Hence, he was no match for a level 2 empty god. After flying for a while, the creature stopped when it saw that it could not catch up with Lu Ming. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. After that, Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He retracted his aura and slowed down. Who knew if there were other powerful beings in the barbaric mountain range? Indeed, after flying for a while, Lu Ming saw another huge creature. It was similar to the previous one, but its aura was more terrifying. It was at level 3 empty god realm. Fortunately, Lu Ming had discovered it early and avoided it from afar. Let's ask Senior Zhu Long. Lu Ming's heart stirred. A light and shadow flashed and ancestral Gregon appeared. Zhu Long had been on guard. When he appeared, he immediately scanned the surroundings. He was relieved when he saw that Lu Ming was alone. Lu Ming, what happened? Did you escape? Zhu Long was surprised. This time it was a gamble and the chances of success were not high. He was even prepared for Lu Ming to fail and they would all be arrested. At this moment, he saw that Lu Ming was alone in the middle of a barbaric mountain range. Naturally, he was extremely surprised. Senior, I was lucky to take the first step. Lu Ming immediately told Zhu Long about the situation. The son of Yuan Luo Hall Master? It seems like he is the son of Yuan Luo Hall Master. Zhu Long's eyes moved. He had stayed in the heaven realm for countless years, while Kong Long had only cultivated for about 500 years. Naturally, ancestral Gregon did not know Kong Long. Lu Ming, you must get hold of Kong Long. We are still on the dark underworld star. The Yuan Luo Palace will definitely send a large number of experts to capture you. You might be useful at a critical moment. Ancestral Dragon said. Senior, how do we leave planet Dark Underworld? Lu Ming asked. The Dark Underworld star is huge. It's much bigger than the Heaven Realm, the Primordial Realm, and the Evil God Realm combined. If you want to leave the Dark Underworld star and go to other planets, you have to take the space teleportation formation. Ancestral Dragon said. In that case, we can use Kong Long to threaten them, and then use the teleportation formation to leave this place. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Oh. Ancestral Gregon shook his head and sighed. There must be a terrifying existence guarding the teleportation formation. If you encounter an existence above level 7 empty god realm, I'm afraid Kong Long will be useless. Such an existence is too powerful. Before you can react, they will kill you. Even before you kill Kong Long, they will destroy your soul. So powerful. Lu Ming frowned. The difference between each level of the empty god realm is too great. If you encounter a true god, they can kill you with a thought. Ancestral Dragon said. It seems like my strength is at the bottom of the chaotic universe. Lu Ming felt helpless. In the Heaven Realm, the Primordial Realm, and the Evil God Realm, his strength was at the top. However, when he came to the chaotic universe, he realized that his strength was too weak. Any expert or a giant beast in the wild was stronger than him. He still had a long way to go in his cultivation. The Martial God Realm was only the first step of cultivation. Entering the Martial God Realm was the second step. The Empty God Realm was only the starting point of the second step. There were still true gods, heavenly gods, and supreme beings. Each one was more powerful than the last. He wondered how powerful a supreme being would be. He might be able to destroy a small thousand world like the Heaven Realm, the Primordial Realm, and the Evil God Realm with a breath. Senior, is it possible to cross the starry sky and go to other planets? Lu Ming asked after calming himself down. Cross the starry sky? Ancestral Dragon shook his head and said with a wry smile, the starry sky is full of dangers. Ordinary empty gods will explode and die as soon as they enter the starry sky. True gods can stay in the starry sky for a short while, but they can't cross the starry sky. If you want to cross the starry sky and go from one planet to another, you need to be at least a heavenly god. Heavenly God Realm. Lu Ming was speechless and gave up on the idea. However, you don't have to rely on your cultivation to cross the starry sky. In the chaotic universe, there's a kind of starship that can cross the starry sky. However, it's too precious and ordinary people can't have it. Ancestral Dragon said. What should I do? Lu Ming's brows furrowed deeply. He couldn't go to the teleportation formation. If he couldn't cross the starry sky, how could he leave this place? He didn't have much time left. He only had a year. If he couldn't leave in a year, the small world in his body would merge with the chaotic universe. He wasn't the only one. All the people in the heaven region who practiced the rules of order and had cultivated a small world would have to do the same. At that time there would be a huge commotion. If he stayed in Dark Underworld Star, Yuan Luo Hall would sense it. It was too dangerous to stay in Dark Underworld Star. He had to leave Dark Underworld Star within a year. In the distance, a huge creature roared and walked around the mountains, causing the mountains to shake. A wild beast. Ancestral Dragon looked at the huge creature and muttered. A wild beast? Lu Ming was confused. Wasn't it a divine beast? In the chaotic universe there are two types of beasts. One is a divine beast and the other is a wild beast. Divine beasts are spiritual. Like humans, they have created various cultivation skills. Various races gather and are scattered across the chaotic universe, forming powerful forces. On the other hand, wild beasts have low spirituality. They cultivate based on their instincts and like to stay in the wild mountains. Actually, in the beginning, wild beasts and divine beasts were the same race. However, as time passed, they slowly diverged. Ancestral Dragon explained. Lu Ming nodded. He understood. This is a wild dragon. It is an extremely powerful existence among the wild beasts. It is said that in the beginning, wild dragons and true dragons were of the same race. Ancestral Dragon explained. Then the two of them discussed for a while. They didn't have a better idea for the time being. They planned to go to some places where people gathered and gather information before making the next step. Then Ancestral Dragon returned to Lu Ming's small world. Lu Ming continued to fly. Lu Ming took more than 10 days to fly out of the mountain range. Then he concealed his aura and changed his appearance. He randomly chose a direction and flew forward. The Dark Underworld planet was too big. Even though Lu Ming's speed here was 100 times slower than when he was in the Heaven Realm, with Lu Ming's current cultivation, he was still astonishingly fast. However, Lu Ming still took a few more days to see a city. Chapter 2574. A majestic city stood on the ground. It looked even bigger than Two Realm City. Lu Ming walked into the city through a huge city gate. So many races. After entering the city gate, Lu Ming discovered that there were people coming and going on the streets of the city. They were divided into different races. At a glance, Lu Ming found at least dozens of races. Although there were also humans, they were the least. The chaotic astral river has gathered many different races. It's true. Lu Ming thought. During these days, Lu Ming would chat with Ancestral Dragon from time to time. Ancestral Dragon also told Lu Ming many things about the primitive universe. The great desolate universe was boundless. It was simply too big. There were countless planets with life. In the primitive universe, there were countless races, each occupying a large territory. These territories were called star fields. There were many galaxies under each star field, and there were many planets under each galaxy. The number of habitable planets under each galaxy was astonishing. The Yuan Luo Palace was located at the edge of the primitive universe, in a place called the Chaotic Astral River. The Chaotic Astral River could be said to be one of the most barren galaxies in the primitive universe. Those powerful forces did not care about this place at all. Therefore, it became a rather special galaxy. Those who could not survive, escaped criminals or were being hunted, etc., would all come to the Chaotic Astral River. Therefore, countless races gathered in the Chaotic Astral River. This place was full of chaos and killing could be seen everywhere. Of course, the Chaotic Astral River had formed many forces of different sizes. These forces could be seen conquering each other. When Lu Ming first heard that this place was one of the most barren places in the primitive universe, he was really shocked. In Lu Ming's opinion, the cultivation environment here was already extremely amazing. It was dozens of times better than the Heaven Realm. If such a place was the most barren place in the primitive universe, then how amazing would those places with good cultivation environments be? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. He felt that the primitive universe would be more exciting than the Heaven Realm, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm. What about the Taishu dynasty? Lu Ming couldn't help but think of the Taishu dynasty mentioned by White Fang. The master of the Yellow Springs Mountain Jingyu came from the Taishu dynasty. Where was the Taishu dynasty? Lu Ming had asked Ancestral Dragon about this, but Ancestral Dragon shook his head. He had never heard of the Taishu dynasty. Ancestral Dragon was born and raised in the Chaotic Star River. According to him, he had never left the Chaotic Star River in his entire life. Lu Ming wandered around the streets. Here there were all kinds of races. Naturally, no one paid attention to Lu Ming. Looks like there aren't too many void gods either? Lu Ming looked around and discovered that most of the people on the street were martial emperors. In the primitive universe, It was the void prying stage, the true void stage, the profound void stage, and the void transformation stage. There weren't many people who had reached the void god realm. Lu Ming saw the most void transformation realm and demigods. It seemed that in the primitive universe, it wasn't easy to break through to the martial god realm. Lu Ming looked around and found an inn to stay in. In the next few days, Lu Ming would wander around the city or go to some restaurants to ask for information. Lu Ming knew that there were only teleportation formations in the two largest cities. However, there were many experts from the Yuan Luo Palace guarding those two cities. Should I take the risk? Lu Ming thought. He wanted to disguise himself and see if he could take the opportunity to fool the teleportation formation in front of him. However, he wasn't confident. Although his divine breath technique worked in the heaven realm, there were too many experts in the primitive universe. Who knew if those experts would be able to see through the disguise of his divine breath technique? Moreover, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, the effect of the divine breath technique became less and less effective. It was harder and harder to conceal his aura. This was natural. The stronger one's cultivation was, the stronger one's aura would be. It would be harder to conceal it unless there was a more exquisite way to conceal one's aura. I'll observe for a while and see if there are any other ways. If there's no other way, I'll have to take the risk. Lu Ming made up his mind. In the following days, Lu Ming stayed in the city and cultivated while thinking of a way. Lu Ming's cultivation speed was indeed much faster than in the heaven realm. Lu Ming often used Jing Yu's portrait to comprehend the sovereign intent and improved rapidly. However, there was a seal on Jing Yu's portrait. Lu Ming still couldn't open it. It was probably because his cultivation wasn't enough. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. In 2 months, Lu Ming's comprehension of the sovereign Tao had improved. It was comparable to 10 years of cultivation in the heaven realm. He believed that it wouldn't take long for his cultivation to increase again. On this day, Lu Ming was walking on the street when he suddenly looked at the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. In the sky, a few streams of light flashed past. They were a few empty god realm experts. Recently, there have been more and more experts in the vicinity. Indeed, they seemed to be looking for someone. Around him, many people were discussing. Could it be that the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace are looking for me? Lu Ming thought. He had taken down Kong Long, so the Yuan Luo Palace definitely wouldn't let him go. It was normal for them to send a large number of experts to hunt him down. After that, Lu Ming became more careful. However, in the next few days, Lu Ming discovered that the number of experts in the city had decreased instead of increasing. Some people even walked into the city and looked around with sharp eyes. It was as if the other party had locked onto the city. Lu Ming returned to the inn and summoned Ancestral Gregon. He told him about this matter. Oh no, the other party must have locked onto you. You just came out of the heaven realm and haven't assimilated with the chaotic universe. There must be a strong aura of the heaven realm on your body. It won't be difficult for the other party to lock onto you as long as they spend some time studying you. Ancestral Gregon's face changed drastically. Lu Ming's face also changed. However, the other party didn't find you immediately. This means that they can only determine the general area and can't pinpoint your exact location. Now you have to leave this place quickly. Ancestral Gregon said. All right. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and kept Ancestral Gregon into his small world. Lu Ming directly left the inn and headed out of the city. Soon Lu Ming exited the city gate. He randomly chose a direction and flew forward. Stop. After Lu Ming flew for a while, 2 people flew toward him and one of them reprimanded him. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. They were 2 middle-aged men and both of them were empty gods. One of them was holding a crystal ball in his hand. At this moment, the crystal ball was shining with a faint light. The 2 middle-aged men flew towards Lu Ming. When they got close to Lu Ming, the crystal ball suddenly shone brightly. It's him. The 2 middle-aged men's eyes lit up. Swoosh. Lu Ming dashed out and flew in another direction at high speed. Stop right there. Chase after him. The 2 middle-aged burly men chased after Lu Ming at high speed. Chapter 2575. The crystal balls in the 2 middle-aged men's hands could clearly sense Lu Ming's aura. As soon as the crystal balls got close to him, they lit up. Lu Ming's face darkened as he flew at top speed. However, as time passed, the distance between him and the 2 middle-aged men narrowed. Brat, you can't escape, one of the men said malevolently with an oppressive aura. The 2 middle-aged men were at level 2 empty god realm. Under normal circumstances, Lu Ming would not be a match for them. As such, Lu Ming constantly activated the battle character art as he flew. Boom. There seemed to be an explosion in his body. The battle character art had successfully activated the double combat strength. Lu Ming did not attack immediately but continued to fly. In the blink of an eye, both parties were far away from the city and flew into a forest. Swoosh. Suddenly Lu Ming's figure, which was flying at high speed, stopped abruptly. Not only that, but he also dashed toward the two burly middle-aged men. A combat sword appeared in his hands and he slashed with it. The two middle-aged burly men did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly stop running. Instead he charged toward them. They could not stop themselves in time and dashed toward Lu Ming. Boom. Boom. The two middle-aged men also made their moves. They each made a move. However, the situation was too sudden. They could only display at most 50% of their battle prowess. Level 2 Empty God Realm martial artists could only use 50% of their combat strength. They could not block Lu Ming's attack at all. Poof. One of the middle-aged men did not even have the chance to scream as he was slashed into two by Lu Ming's sword. Not good. The other burly man hastily retreated. Kill? Lu Ming held his combat sword and charged towards the middle-aged man with cold killing intent. The middle-aged man finally recovered and took out a combat sword to slash at Lu Ming. Clang. The combat sword and saber collided and the middle-aged man retreated. Although Lu Ming, who had activated the battle character art, was not a match for a level 3 Empty God Realm martial artist, he had the upper hand against a level 2 Empty God Realm martial artist. After knocking back the middle-aged man with one move, Lu Ming continued to attack his opponent, unleashing a barrage of attacks. The middle-aged man's roar was like thunder. Naturally, he was unwilling to be killed, so he fought back with all his might. Clang, clang, clang. The two of them continued to clash. However, Lu Ming's battle prowess was ultimately stronger. The middle-aged man was no match for him. After a dozen or so exchanges, his arms were torn apart and he was sent flying backwards, spitting out blood. Whoosh. Lu Ming became one with his sword and rushed over, killing the middle-aged man. You're courting death. At this moment, two figures flew over from the direction of the city, emitting cold killing intent. Clearly, the commotion caused by the battle here had alerted the other experts of the Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming's face darkened. With a wave of his hand, he collected the storage rings of the two middle-aged men, then turned into a beam of light and flew away at top speed. The two people who came later were extremely powerful. One of them was at level 2 Empty God Realm, while the other had a terrifying aura. He was at level 3 Empty God Realm. This was not the Heaven region. Lu Ming could mobilize the power of the Heaven region, the Yuan Realm, and the Evil God Realm. In this place, Lu Ming was definitely not a match for a level 3 Empty God Realm expert. Lu Ming flew at top speed with the two people chasing after him. The two of them looked middle-aged. One of them was a burly man with a horn on his head, while the other was a human with disheveled hair. The human man's cultivation was at level 3 Empty God Realm. In the blink of an eye, the two parties had flown for tens of thousands of miles. Swoosh. At this moment, a figure suddenly dashed out of a mountain peak in front of Lu Ming. It was a burly old man. The old man was also holding a crystal ball in his hands. At this moment, the crystal ball was reflecting light. Haha, I've searched high and low only to find it by chance. The burly old man laughed and threw a punch at Lu Ming. A terrifying fist force pressed down on Lu Ming. Rumble. Before the fist force arrived, it brought along a terrifying wave, causing Lu Ming to hold his breath. Lu Ming unleashed all his strength and slashed out with his sword. Buzz buzz buzz. The combat sword and the fist force collided, causing the combat sword to vibrate violently. Lu Ming felt a violent force surging towards him. He could not help but take a few steps back as the blood in his body churned. Level 3 Empty God Realm is indeed powerful. Lu Ming steadied himself and looked solemn. With his current combat strength, he was unable to deal with a level 3 Empty God Realm expert. Unless his cultivation had broken through to a level 3 Heavenly Emperor and the battle character skill had doubled his combat strength, he would be able to fight against a level 3 Empty God Realm expert. The moment Lu Ming stopped, the two people behind caught up and surrounded Lu Ming. Two level 3 Empty God Realm experts and one level 2 Empty God Realm expert. Hee hee kid, let's see how you're going to escape this time. The single-horned burly man sneered. Lu Ming frowned. He was no match for the two level 3 Empty God Realm experts. He wanted to use Kong Long to threaten them. With Kong Long in his hand, he did not believe that they would dare to attack him. Kill? However, at this moment, the burly man with messy hair struck directly. He was very decisive. A long spear appeared in his hand. A terrifying spear gleam, accompanied by a terrifying whistling sound, pierced toward Lu Ming. Without giving Lu Ming a chance to react, Lu Ming could only swing his sword to block the attack. Dang! The combat sword and the long spear collided and Lu Ming retreated quickly. Kill. Kill. The burly old man and the single-horned burly man attacked Lu Ming. The old man's fist force was terrifying. He was wearing a pair of gloves that were obviously a sacred weapon and each of his punches was terrifying. Lu Ming tried his best to block a few blows and his body was in pain as though it was going to split open. Just as Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, there was a sudden change. The burly man with messy hair suddenly changed his spear force. He was no longer attacking Lu Ming but the burly old man. The burly old man had never expected that the burly old man would suddenly attack him and he was caught off guard. Poof! The long spear pierced through the burly old man's glabella and the burly old man died. Lu Ming was stunned and the single-horned burly man was stunned as well. He then shouted, "Song Mo, what are you doing? Kill." The burly man with messy hair responded to the single-horned burly man with a cold shout. He took the opportunity to pull out his long spear and swept it across the single-horned burly man's body. The single-horned burly man screamed as his body was split into two and he was on the verge of death. "Go down and find the answer yourself," the burly man with messy hair said coldly. He then thrust his spear again and ended the life of the single-horned burly man. The burly old man and the single-horned burly man were killed by the burly man with messy hair in an instant. Lu Ming retreated cautiously. He was very curious as to why the other party would suddenly kill each other. The burly man with messy hair looked at Lu Ming with a complicated look in his eyes. He seemed to be reminiscing. He pondered for a moment and said, "Are you from the heaven realm?" Chapter 2576. The man with messy hair suddenly asked Lu Ming if he was from the heaven realm, which made Lu Ming's eyes move. "You know about the heaven realm?" Lu Ming asked. Ever since Lu Ming came to the chaotic universe, the people he met didn't call him the heaven realm. They just called him the small thousand world and called Lu Ming a native. But this man with messy hair knew about the heaven realm. Lu Ming was surprised. "Because I'm also from the heaven realm." The man with messy hair smiled. "What?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This was really beyond his expectations. To be exact, I'm from the heaven realm. But I left the heaven realm in the primordial age. I don't know how many years have passed. The man with messy hair sighed. He should be someone who reached the demigod realm in the primordial age. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. In the primordial age, anyone who reached the demigod realm would leave the heaven realm and come to the chaotic universe to break through. Lu Ming didn't expect to meet someone from the heaven realm here. This might be the reason why the other party killed the horned man and the burly old man. Lu Ming relaxed a little. "I'm Song Mo." The man introduced himself and said, "I heard that many years ago the passage between the heaven realm and the dark underworld star was sealed. How did you come out?" "You don't know what happened recently?" Lu Ming asked. "I don't know." Song Mo shook his head and said, "I received an order. The young master of the Yuan Luo Palace, Kong Long, was secretly kidnapped by someone. We were in charge of finding the person who kidnapped Kong Long. I only sensed the strong aura of the heaven realm from your body when I saw you. I will never forget it." "I see." Lu Ming nodded. "It's like this?" Then Lu Ming briefly told him what happened in the heaven realm and the evil god realm. "I see. I didn't expect so many things to happen in the heaven realm. Unfortunately we can't protect the heaven realm." Song Mo sighed. "Senior, why did you join the Yuan Luo Palace when they treated the heaven realm so badly?" Lu Ming asked. This was also what he found strange. That was why he was still wary of the Song dynasty. Sigh. Song Mo sighed and said, "It's all because of the Yuan Luo Hall. The Yuan Luo Palace treated the heaven realm and the primordial realm as pastures. They used the divine beasts of the human race as medicinal ingredients to refine medicine. I only found out about this after I left the heaven realm. Moreover, in the evil god world of the heaven domain and the primordial realm, anyone who has reached the half-god realm will be controlled by the Yuan Luo Hall once they step out and come to the dark underworld star. Many restrictions will be placed on their souls, and they can only obey their orders. Otherwise they will suffer a fate worse than death." At this point, Song Mo's eyes revealed a trace of savagery. "Damn it, I can't believe it." Lu Ming also shouted coldly. Since ancient times, almost all the half-gods who came out of the heaven realm and the primordial realm have been controlled by the Yuan Luo Hall and have become their slaves. If there's anything dangerous they will send us to do it. If things don't go their way they will control the restrictions to torture us. And we can't escape at all. Once we leave a certain range of the Yuan Luo Hall, the restrictions will activate and we will suffer a fate worse than death. Song Mo said again. At the end, his voice was filled with helplessness and desolation. Lu Ming's face was also gloomy. He could understand Song Mo's feelings. In the heaven realm and the evil god world they had reached the half-god realm and stood at the peak. They came to the Eldritch universe with great ambition, wanting to reach a higher realm. But in reality they had become the Yuan Luo Hall's slaves. How sad was that? You should be cultivating the law system. I have met a few half-gods from the heaven realm who cultivated the law system and cultivated a small world. But once they come to the Eldritch universe, the small world will merge with the Eldritch universe after a year. You must escape from the dark underworld star within a year. Otherwise you will be found by the Yuan Luo Hall's experts. Song Mo said. Senior, do you have any ideas? Lu Ming asked. There are only two ways to leave the dark underworld star. One is to take the Starry Sky teleportation formation. The other is to leave on a Starry Sky battleship. But now the entire dark underworld star is looking for you. The teleportation formation is guarded by terrifying experts. Once you go you will be discovered. And a Starry Sky battleship is very precious and rare. I don't have one. Song Mo's brows furrowed. Lu Ming was silent. The current situation was not good. He had wanted to go to the teleportation formation to see if he could fool them. But now the other party could sense the heaven realm aura on him. If he went he would only be walking into a trap and die. What should I do? Lu Ming frowned. Now we can only try our luck. Song Mo pondered for a moment, then suddenly said. Try our luck? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right. Song Mo nodded and said, throughout the years, most of the demigods that emerged from our celestial dimension have been controlled by the Origin Azura Hall. However, one person managed to escape successfully and escape the Origin Azura Hall's control. Perhaps you've heard of that person. The people of the celestial dimension call him the Technique Ancestor. The Ancestor of Techniques. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had heard of the Ancestor of Techniques. He was a legendary figure in the heaven realm. The Ancestor of Techniques was extremely talented and rare. At the end of the ancient era, the Ancestor of Techniques appeared out of nowhere and created the law cultivation system. Furthermore, the law cultivation system rapidly expanded. In the end, the law cultivation system even defeated the ancient era cultivation system and became the mainstream cultivation system of the heaven realm. The Ancestor of Techniques' life could be written into a legend. Later on, when the Ancestor of Techniques reached the demigod realm, he left the heaven realm. The current Heavenly Thunder Emperor of the Heaven Realm was one of the Ancestor of Techniques' disciples. The Ancestor of Techniques broke away from the Yuan Luo Hall's control and risked his life to cultivate. In the end he reached the true God realm and returned to the chaotic galaxy. He created a force and gathered many experts to fight against the Yuan Luo Hall. Song Mo said. Lu Ming nodded. Anyone from the Heaven Realm who knew the truth would want to destroy the Yuan Luo Hall. It was normal for one to fight against the Yuan Luo Hall when they had mastered the law cultivation system. For so many years, the Ancestor of Techniques' forces have become stronger and stronger. He has been fighting against the Yuan Luo Hall non-stop. On the dark underworld planet, there is a star iron mine that produces precious star iron. I heard that the Ancestor of Techniques' forces attacked the star iron mine some time ago. If you go to the star iron mine and are lucky enough to meet the Ancestor of Techniques' forces, you can leave the dark underworld planet with them. This is the only way now. Take this. Song Mo waved his hand and a jade talisman flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He found that it was a huge map. This is the map of the dark underworld planet. You can find the exact location of the star iron mine by following the map. I can't stay with you for too long or I'll be exposed. Song Mo said. Chapter 2577. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming thanked him sincerely. You're welcome. You carry the hope of the heavenly boundary. I hope you can escape. Song Mo said with a smile. Senior, how can I break the seal on your body? I have mastered the Tao of Sovereign. Perhaps I can help you break the seal. Lu Ming said. His Tao of Sovereign was extremely mysterious. It might work. You've mastered the Tao of Sovereign. Song Mo was taken aback, extremely shocked. Not many people had mastered the Tao of Sovereign even in the primitive universe. Every one of them was a peerless genius whose name shook the world. Lu Ming had mastered such power. Haha, good. You're really the hope of the heavenly boundary. Song Mo laughed. His face was full of smiles. After a while Song Mo said, but your cultivation is too low. The seal on my body was personally placed by the Yuan Luo Hall Master. Even if you have mastered the Tao of Sovereign, I'm afraid you'll have to wait until you reach the true immortal realm to break the seal. True immortal realm? Lu Ming muttered. As expected, it wasn't that simple. If it was that simple, the ancestor of technique would have secretly helped them break the seal. Go be careful. I'll think of a way to lure away some of the people from the Yuan Luo Hall nearby, Song Emo said. Senior, Lu Ming will remember today's kindness. If Lu Ming escapes from danger, I'll definitely come back to save you. Lu Ming clasped his fists with a determined gaze. Alright, I believe in you. Song Emo smiled. Then Lu Ming used his movement technique and turned into a ray of light, leaving the place. After Lu Ming left, Song Emo destroyed the traces at the scene and left as well. Lu Ming flew for a while before landing on the ground. After all, flying in the air was too big of a target. Moreover, Lu Ming didn't have a fixed direction. He would go east then west. He moved in a zigzag manner to avoid being detected by the Yuan Luo Hall. Although it was slower, it was at least safer. Just like that, Lu Ming followed the map given by Song Emo and headed toward the Star Iron Mine. The people of the Yuan Luo Palace could only capture Lu Ming's approximate location with the crystal ball. They couldn't pinpoint his exact position. Now that Lu Ming was moving quickly and constantly changing directions, it was even more difficult for the other party to capture his precise position. Therefore, Lu Ming did not encounter any experts from the Yuan Luo Hall in the following days. However, Planet Dark Underworld was too big. Lu Ming's speed was already slow. It took him more than 2 months to reach the Star Iron Mine. It was getting closer and closer to the 1-year deadline. There were less than 8 months left. After arriving here, Lu Ming became even more cautious. Because there was a terrifying expert guarding the Star Iron Mine. There was no doubt that there was a rank 7 ethereal god realm expert. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. Lu Ming restrained his aura and carefully approached the Star Iron Mine to check out the situation. This area was an endless mountain range. There were towering mountains everywhere. Lu Ming hid in one of the mountains and looked into the distance. In the distance, there were mountains and a huge Star Iron Mine appeared in front of him. There were many figures mining there. Some experts were patrolling. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Senior Song Emo and the people of the Dharma Ancestors Force came to attack this Star Iron Mine. But now it has been a few months. Are the people of the Dharma Ancestors still here? Even if they are, how can I find them? Will they attack again? Lu Ming pondered and thoughts flashed through his mind. He decided to wait nearby. Then Lu Ming waited near the Star Iron Mine. However, he did not stay in one place. Instead, he constantly changed his position to avoid being discovered by the other party. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. However, there was no movement. The Star Iron Mine had been operating peacefully. Have the people of the Dharma Ancestor left? Lu Ming frowned. Time was running out. Not long after, Lu Ming changed his direction again and carefully went to another mountain peak. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a chill in his heart. He felt a sense of danger. Lu Ming took a step forward and suddenly moved 100 meters to the right. Whoosh! A sword light landed on the place where Lu Ming had just stepped, cutting a deep gully in the ground. You can dodge my sword. Not bad. A clear voice sounded. Lu Ming turned around and saw a woman. This woman had jade-like skin and exquisite facial features. She was a stunning beauty. She had a thick ponytail and was wearing a tight outfit. She held a long sword in her hand and looked quite heroic. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Had he been discovered by the people of the Yuan Luo Palace? Whoosh! Lu Ming quickly retreated. At the same time, he kept using the battle formula. He wanted to trigger the double combat strength of the battle formula. You are just a transformation void martial realm martial artist. How dare you run away in front of me? Stay! The woman shouted. Her body was like a flickering shadow as she rushed toward Lu Ming. She waved her long sword and rays of bright sword light slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's battle sword appeared in his hand and he slashed out continuously. Bam! 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 A series of explosions sounded. Lu Ming's arm went numb and he quickly retreated. What a powerful combat strength. Lu Ming was slightly shocked. This woman's cultivation was only at rank 1 empty god realm. However, her divine power was dense and powerful. Her attack strength was shocking. She could actually suppress Lu Ming. After forcing Lu Ming to retreat, the woman charged toward Lu Ming again. She waved her long sword and hundreds of rays of sword light shot out toward Lu Ming. Boom. At that moment, Lu Ming finally triggered the double combat strength of the battle formula. His battle sword vibrated and rays of sword light shot out and collided with the woman. Clang! Clang! The speed of their attacks was shocking. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. After dozens of blows, the two of them retreated a few hundred meters. They were evenly matched and it was difficult to determine the winner. Could she be a supreme talent from Yuan Luo Hall? Lu Ming thought to himself. Now that he had triggered the double combat strength of the battle formula, his combat strength was very close to rank 3 Empty God Realm and he could kill a rank 2 Empty God Realm martial artist. However, this woman was only at rank 1 Empty God Realm and she was able to fight him to a draw. Lu Ming was shocked. However, he did not know that the woman's heart was in turmoil. How can this be? How can his combat strength be so powerful? The woman shouted in her heart. Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial realm and he was far from reaching the empty god realm. However, his combat strength was so strong that he could fight with her. It was unbelievable. The Sovereign Tao. The power that he possesses is the Sovereign Tao. There is actually a genius who possesses the Sovereign Tao in Star Dark Underworld. Yuan Luo Hall actually has such a supreme talent. He must be eliminated. Thoughts flashed through the woman's mind. Then she gritted her teeth and charged toward Lu Ming with her long sword. However, at the instant that woman attacked, their expressions all changed. In the distance, a few rays of light shot out from the star iron mine. Obviously, the battle here had been discovered. Chapter 2578. Let's go. Lu Ming turned around and increased his speed to the maximum. He thought that the woman's helpers had arrived and it would be dangerous if he stayed any longer. The woman was surprised. She thought that Lu Ming would try his best to hold her back when the experts from the Star Iron Mine discovered them. She didn't expect that Lu Ming would run faster than her. Could it be that he's not from the Yuan Luo Palace? A thought flashed through the woman's mind before she left as well. Not long after they left, a few figures appeared at the place where they had fought. Looking at the ravines on the ground, one of the old men sneered. It seems like the righteous army hasn't given up and is still lingering nearby. Hee, their people have been captured by us. Naturally, they want to save them. Let's wait and catch them all in one fell swoop. Another old woman sneered. Their figures flashed and they disappeared from the place. Lu Ming ran for more than 100,000 miles before he stopped and found a place to rest. I'll observe here for a while. If it doesn't work, I'll have to find a hidden place on the dark underworld star and merge the small world with the chaotic universe. Lu Ming thought. Although there was a great risk in doing so and there was a high chance that the experts from the Yuan Luo Palace would discover them, he had no other choice. After resting for 2 days, Lu Ming headed towards the Star Iron Mine. Clang, clang. Lu Ming walked for a while before he heard the sound of an intense battle ahead. It was obvious that someone was fighting. Lu Ming's eyes moved. He retracted his aura and carefully approached. In front of him, 3 middle-aged men were attacking a woman. It's her. Lu Ming's eyes moved. The lady who was besieged was actually the beautiful lady who had attacked Lu Ming previously. At this moment, the woman was being attacked by 3 men and was in a dangerous situation. 2 of the 3 men were at the 2nd level of the Empty God Realm while the other was at the 3rd level of the Empty God Realm. Although the woman was strong, she was no match for the 3 men. A chick from the Righteous Law Army. Not bad, she's quite tasty. I'll take her down and enjoy her, ha. The rank 3 Empty God Realm man wielded a metal rod. When he waved it around, a loud rumbling sound could be heard. With one strike, the woman's body trembled violently and she was sent flying. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face was pale as snow. Yuan Luo Palace bastard. The woman gritted her teeth and tried her best to rush to the side, but the 3 men held her tightly, making it impossible for her to escape. So she's not from the Yuan Luo Palace, but from the Jingtian army. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance without any effort. Previously, Song Mo had said that the force created by the ancestor of techniques was called the Righteous Army. Since this girl was from the Righteous Sky Army, she must not die in the hands of the Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming began to use the battle formula, triggering double combat power. This time his luck was pretty good. Lu Ming only needed to use it 3 times before he was able to trigger double combat power. Lu Ming cautiously approached. Then he suddenly erupted with power and charged forward. Who is it? The moment Lu Ming made his move, the other party discovered him. A level 2 Empty God Realm man shouted and turned around to attack. However, the other party attacked hastily and was unable to block Lu Ming's attack. He was sent flying by Lu Ming's sword. Then Lu Ming continued to step forward and attacked continuously with his battle sword. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. That man was killed by Lu Ming. After killing this burly man, Lu Ming charged toward another burly man at level 2 Void God Realm. It's him. After seeing Lu Ming, the young woman's eyes lit up. Her figure flashed rapidly as she dodged the attack of the level 3 Empty God Realm expert. Without the attacks of the two level 2 empty god realm experts, the pressure on the young woman was greatly reduced. After dodging a few attacks, her situation became much better. "Brat, you're courting death." The level 3 empty god realm man roared and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned around and left. He did not want to fight the other party head-on. The man roared and chased after the young woman. However, the young woman had already run far away. Lu Ming did not continue fighting. He sprinted at full speed, then made a turn and chased after the lady. After the two men chased for a while, they seemed to have some misgivings and did not dare to continue. Instead they stopped and spread the news. Lu Ming followed the young woman for hundreds of thousands of miles. At this moment, the young woman stopped and looked at Lu Ming. She said, "Although you saved me, you don't have to keep following me. What do you want?" "You're from the righteous army?" Lu Ming asked. The young woman's expression changed slightly. She said, "That's right. I'm very curious. Who are you?" "The people from Yuan Luo Palace seem to want to deal with you too." "You're really from the righteous army?" Lu Ming was overjoyed. He said, "I'm from the same hometown as the ancestor of techniques. Can you bring me to see him?" "Ancestor of techniques? Who's that?" The young woman frowned in confusion. You don't know the ancestor of techniques? He's the one who founded the righteous army." Lu Ming said. "You're talking about the general? You're from the same hometown as the general?" The young woman was puzzled. "Yes, I'm the real deal. The entire planet Dark Underworld is chasing after me," Lu Ming said. "It doesn't matter if you're really from the same hometown as the general, but it's a fact that you're enemies with Yuan Luo Palace. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. However, it's impossible to bring you to see the general now." The young woman shook her head and sighed. "What's going on?" Lu Ming had a bad premonition. "Last time, some of us attacked the planet Dark Underworld Star Iron Mine with the intention of stealing their ore. However, we didn't expect them to prepare an ambush beforehand. Some of us died in battle, some were captured, and only a few escaped. The senior who controlled the star warship was also captured. Now the star warship is in their hands. If we want to escape from the planet Dark Underworld, we must first rescue those from the righteous army and take back the star warship," the young woman said. Lu Ming was speechless. It wasn't easy for him to meet the righteous army, but he didn't expect them to end up in the same situation as him. They were also trapped and couldn't escape. Now there are many experts from Yuan Luo Palace in the Star Iron Mine. They're waiting for us to attack so that they can catch all of us in one fell swoop. During this period of time I've been nearby checking for news," the young woman said. Lu Ming finally understood why the young woman had attacked him the moment she saw him. She must have thought that he was from Yuan Luo Palace and wanted to capture him to get information. "What's the cultivation of the strongest expert in the Star Iron Mine?" Lu Ming pondered for a while and asked. "Level 9 Empty God Realm," the young woman said. "What's the cultivation of the people who escaped?" Lu Ming asked again. "There's also a level 9 Empty God Realm expert, but there's only one of them. However, there are a few level 9 empty gods in the Star Iron Mine. Therefore we're no match for them," the young woman said. "There's also a level 9 empty god realm expert." "Ah, that's enough. I can help you rescue them and take back the star warship." Lu Ming laughed loudly. Chapter 2579. "You have a way?" The young lady was puzzled. She did not believe him. Lu Ming had a way to save the righteous army and take back the Starry Sky battleship? How was that possible? Although Lu Ming was extremely talented, his cultivation was still low. His combat strength was on par with hers. What could he do? There were at least a few level 9 empty god realm experts in the Star Iron Mine. As for level 7 and 8 empty god realm experts, Lu Ming would be killed with a slap. Sometimes you don't need to use force to save people. I'll show you something and you'll know. Lu Ming smiled and waved his hand. A person appeared in his hand. This person was the young master of Yuan Luo Palace, Kong Long. A person. At first, the young woman was stunned, but then, her beautiful eyes suddenly widened. "This is the young master of Yuan Luo Palace, Kong Long?" the young lady exclaimed softly. She had not expected to meet Kong Long here. "Have you seen him before?" Lu Ming asked. "A few times," the young lady said. She seemed to have thought of something and a bright smile appeared on her face. Kong Long had been locked up by Lu Ming for half a year and was in a daze. He was stunned for a while before he could see the situation clearly. "Brat, you're dead. Let me tell you you're dead. Let me go now or I'll kill you." "Tong Shi, what are you doing here?" Kong Long roared when he saw Lu Ming. Then he looked at the young lady and was stunned. Kong Long, I didn't expect you to end up like this. Haha, looks like I'm lucky. Tong Shi'er looked at Kong Long and sneered. What are you trying to do? Kong Long's face turned pale. You talk too much, Lu Ming said. He waved his hand and kept Kong Long again. My cultivation is not high enough. Even with Kong Long, I'll be killed in an instant if I meet an expert above level 7 Empty God Realm. However, you have a level 9 Empty God Realm expert. If you let him exchange Kong Long for the Righteous Army and the Starry Sky battleship, you'll be confident, Lu Ming said. This was his plan. Kong Long wouldn't be of much use to him. If he could exchange him for the Righteous Sky Army's people and starships, then he could leave planet Dark Underworld. Moreover, he would be indebted to the Righteous Sky Army, so why not? Alright, if I can succeed this time, we will be extremely grateful. Tong Shi'er's face. Kong Long, by the way, my name is Tong Shi'er. What's your name? Tong Shi'er's Lu Ming replied. Brother Lu, let's go. I'll bring you to see the Righteous Army. Tong Shi'er said. After that, her figure flashed and flew towards a certain direction. Lu Ming followed Tong Shi'er. The two of them did not fly in the air. Instead, they ran on the ground. However, their speed was still very fast. After running for a few hours, the two of them arrived at a rather remote canyon. Who? As soon as the two of them arrived, a cold shout rang out. A middle-aged man appeared in front of them, blocking their path. When the middle-aged burly man saw that it was Tong Shi'er, he revealed a smile. Then he swept his gaze over Lu Ming and narrowed it slightly. There was a hint of wariness in his eyes. He had no choice but to be on guard. This was planet Dark Underworld, the territory of the Yuan Luo Palace. The Righteous Army and the Yuan Luo Palace were sworn enemies. The remaining members of the Righteous Army were all here. Naturally, he would be on guard when he saw an unfamiliar man. Uncle Lu, his name is Lu Ming. He is also an enemy of Yuan Luo Palace. He has a way to help us save Uncle Wang and the others. Tong Shi'er said. He has a way to save them? The middle-aged man's eyes were full of suspicion. He could tell that Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage. Such a cultivation was not worth mentioning in his eyes. How could he have a way to save their companions? Don't be fooled by him. He might be from Yuan Luo Palace and is trying to win your trust. The middle-aged man's face turned ugly. If that was the case, they would all be in danger. A cold, murderous intent was emitted from his body. He was ready to attack at any time. Uncle Lu, it can't be. He has the young master of Yuan Luo Palace, Kong Long. Tong Shi'er hurriedly said. He has the young master of Yuan Luo Palace, Kong Long? The middle-aged man's aura immediately weakened. He was bewildered. If Lu Ming really had Kong Long in his hands, he was definitely not from the Yuan Luo Palace. Even if he wanted to capture them, he would not use Kong Long to take the risk. It was impossible. This was also the reason why Tong Shi'er felt at ease bringing Lu Ming here. That's right. Kong Long is in my book. Miss Shi'er has already seen it. Immediately, Lu Ming explained his plan to him. Good. Brother Lu Ming, I misunderstood you just now. I'm sorry. The middle-aged man smiled embarrassedly. It's fine. Lu Ming smiled. Under such circumstances, it was normal for the other party to be cautious. I'll take you to see Deputy General Sun, the middle-aged man said. Then he led Lu Ming and Tong Shi'er into the depths of the canyon. In the depths of the canyon, Lu Ming saw a group of about 30 people. They were all experts who were above level 3 Empty God Realm. Among them, Tong Shi'er's cultivation was the weakest. Deputy General Sun, the middle-aged man, and Tong Shi'er bowed to a gray-robed elder. The gray-robed elder was Deputy General Sun. In the Jingtian army, the person with the highest position was the general, who was also the ancestor of techniques. Under the general, there were a few deputy generals. Below them were the various generals and deputy generals. This elder was a deputy general who was at level 9 Empty God Realm. When the people in the canyon saw Lu Ming, they were wary. However, when Tong Shi'er and the others said that Lu Ming had Kong Long, they were all overjoyed. Lu Ming waved his hand and Kong Long appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It's really Kong Long. I've seen him once. We're saved. When the Jingtian army saw Kong Long, they were all overjoyed. They were no longer wary of Lu Ming. When Kong Long saw so many Jingtian army members, he was so frightened that his face turned pale. He shrank back and did not dare to make a ruckus. Senior, I'll have to trouble you. Lu Ming handed Kong Long to Deputy General Sunday. Little brother Lu Ming, if we can escape this time, please state your conditions. Deputy General Sun laughed heartily. Junior's conditions are simple. I want to leave with all of you. Then, I need a place to settle my family and friends. Lu Ming said. Ah, that's simple. Our Jingtian army has occupied more than a dozen planets with life. We don't have much, but we have a lot of land. You can choose whatever you want. Deputy General Sun grinned and took Kong Long. Chapter 2580. Alright, there's no time to lose. I'll go and rescue them. You two follow me. After Deputy General Sun took Kong Long, he looked at the two burly men. The two burly men were at level 8 Empty God Realm. Besides Deputy General Sun, they were the ones with the highest cultivation. Immediately, the three of them carried Kong Long and flew away. Lu Ming did not need to worry about what happened after that. He believed that Deputy General Sun would find a way to successfully exchange for the Starry Sky battleship and the members of the Jingtian army. Kong Long was the young master of Yuan Luo Palace. With him as a hostage, the people of Yuan Luo Palace would not dare to reject the exchange. Lu Ming and the others only needed to wait quietly. In less than a day, Deputy General Sun and the others returned with more than 20 people. Success. Lu Ming knew that Deputy General Sun and the others had succeeded. Let's go. Let's leave Planet Dark Underworld. The people of Yuan Luo Palace will definitely hunt us down. Deputy General Sun said. With that, he waved his hand and a small boat appeared in the air. The shape of the boat was strange. It did not look like a boat. Instead, it looked similar to the flying shuttle that Lu Ming had seen in Yuan Lu. The two ends of the boat were pointed and formed the shape of a shuttle. The body of the boat was pitch black and strange runes were engraved on its surface. Lu Ming knew that this must be the Starry Sky battleship. It was a battleship that could travel in the universe. Lu Ming's heart burned with excitement. This kind of battleship was shockingly expensive. This was because true gods could only stay in the universe for a short period of time and could not travel across the universe. Only true gods had the ability to travel across the universe from one planet to another. This showed how precious the Starry Sky battleship was. If one could have one, they would be able to travel freely in the universe. As soon as the Starry Sky battleship appeared in the air, it expanded rapidly. All of you come in. Deputy General Sun said. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Everyone rushed into the Starry Sky battleship. Deputy General Sun was the last to enter. When he entered the Starry Sky battleship turned into a beam of light and shot into the sky. Swoosh. The Starry Sky battleship was like a beam of light shooting into space. Soon it rushed out of the atmosphere and entered the starry sky. On the walls of the starship, there were transparent crystals. Through these crystals, one could see what was happening outside. Lu Ming looked outside through the crystal. He could see that the land behind him was beginning to shrink. Soon, a blue planet appeared below. This is the dark underworld planet? Lu Ming was shocked to see a planet appear in front of him for the first time. In the heaven realm, such a scene could not be seen. The huge dark underworld star was rotating slowly in the universe. In Lu Ming's field of vision, it was getting smaller and smaller. One day I will return to Planet Dark Underworld. One day I will take back the Heaven Realm and Primordial Realm. Senior Song Mo and the other seniors from the Heaven Realm, one day I'll set you free. The Yuan Luo Palace treated us Heaven Realm people as medicinal herbs. One day I'll flatten the Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming swore in his heart, his gaze firm. The dark underworld planet became smaller and smaller in Lu Ming's eyes. Eventually it became a small black dot and disappeared. Lu Ming looked at other places and sighed in his heart. Beautiful, too beautiful. The universe's starry sky was too beautiful. The stars were shining brightly. And they were sailing in the universe's starry sky. The Eldritch universe, this is the real world. It's vast and boundless. Looking at the starry sky, Lu Ming only felt that his heart was broadened. The Heaven Realm, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm were too small. They were just small worlds. They could not be compared to the Eldritch universe. The Eldritch universe was too big. It was boundless. There were countless races and experts. Those legendary experts roamed the universe, repaying their debts of gratitude and vengeance as they pleased. They were immortal. Lu Ming suddenly felt a sense of pride in his heart. He could feel his blood boiling. One day he would also become an expert in the universe. Although there was still an unreachable distance for him now, when Lu Ming first started cultivating, wasn't there also an unreachable distance between him and the top powerhouse in the Heaven Realm? But in the end, Lu Ming still managed to reach it. Lu Ming felt that the Eldritch universe would be more exciting than the Heaven Realm and Primordial Realm. Now, they were going to the headquarters of the Righteous Army, the Righteous Planet. The dark underworld planet was very far away from the Righteous Planet. One could imagine that the surface area of the dark underworld planet was 10,000 times larger than the heaven realm, primordial realm, and evil god realm combined. But the dark underworld planet was just a speck of dust in the universe. One could imagine how big the distance between different planets was. Even with the starry sky battleship's astonishing speed, it would still take several months to travel. In the starry sky battleship, Lu Ming sometimes cultivated and sometimes chatted with Tong Shi-er and Deputy General Sunday. He also learned a lot about the Eldritch universe. At the same time, when the Righteous Army found out that Lu Ming came from a small world and was from the same hometown as the Righteous Army's general, their attitude towards Lu Ming completely changed. It was as if they treated Lu Ming as one of their own. Several months passed in the blink of an eye. In front of them, a huge planet appeared. This planet was the Righteous Planet. The Righteous Planet was named after the Righteous Army occupied this place. Naturally, it wasn't called this before. What a huge planet. Looking from afar, Lu Ming felt that the Righteous Planet was shockingly huge. Its volume was at least several times larger than the dark underworld planet. It gave off a strong visual impact. The starry sky battleship slowed down and slowly approached the Righteous Planet. Slowly, Lu Ming could see mountain ranges, large rivers, and even huge cities on the Righteous Planet. Not long after, they entered the atmosphere of the Righteous Planet. At this time, Deputy General Sun put away the starry sky battleship and they appeared in the air. What a rich divine qi. Lu Ming took a deep breath. He felt that the divine qi here was incomparably rich. It was more than twice as rich as the dark underworld planet. This kind of cultivation environment was too good. Let's go. Deputy General Sun took the lead and flew towards a mountain peak. Lu Ming and the others followed. This mountain peak was incomparably wide. There were many palaces built on it. It was grand and magnificent. Between the mountain peaks, there were constantly experts flying back and forth. So many experts. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. At a glance, he saw that most of the experts in the city were in the Void God realm. Those below the Void God realm were in the minority. However, Lu Ming also understood that this should be the headquarters of the Righteous Army. There were naturally many experts here. Other places definitely wouldn't have so many experts. Soon they arrived at a square. Take Lu Ming to the living room and wait. I'll go and report to the general. If he knows that a fellow villager has come, he'll definitely be very happy. Deputy General Sun said. Okay. Tong Shi-er nodded. Then she looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, come with me. Let's go to the living room. Okay. Lu Ming nodded and followed Tong Shi-er. Chapter 2581. After arriving at the living room, Lu Ming and Tong Shi-er chatted casually as they waited. Not long after, a shadow flashed outside the living room and a figure suddenly appeared. It was a man who looked to be around 30 years old. He wore a black robe and looked handsome and elegant, giving people a gentle feeling. Greetings, General. Tong Shi-er quickly stood up and bowed when she saw the young man. This person was the general of the Jingtian army, the ancestor of the heaven realm back then, the legendary person who created the law cultivation system. Haha, no need to be so polite. I'm here to meet my fellow countrymen. The ancestor of techniques laughed and stepped in. Lu Ming greets the ancestor of techniques. Lu Ming also stood up and bowed. It was the first time he met this legendary person, so Lu Ming was also quite excited. No need to be so polite, no need to be so polite. The ancestor of techniques waved his hand and a gentle force lifted Lu Ming up. No one has called me that for many years. From now on, just call me General like the others. The ancestor of techniques smiled and sized up Lu Ming carefully. You have the aura of the heaven realm. You are indeed from the heaven realm. You even cultivated the law cultivation system and formed a small world. The ancestor of techniques whispered and looked at Lu Ming with an even more friendly gaze. Lu Ming, how did you come out of the heaven realm? What happened in the heaven realm? I once secretly snuck into the dark underworld planet, but the passage to the heaven realm has been sealed. Even I can't enter. The ancestor of techniques asked a few questions. It was obvious that he wasn't calm in his heart. Lu Ming knew that the ancestor of techniques must have cultivated and returned to the dark underworld planet. But the passage was sealed by the ancestral dragon and the Hell Protector Patriarch with the sky-suppressing rune. The ancestor of techniques was too powerful. If he forcefully broke the seal, the heaven realm, the Yuan realm, and the evil god realm would collapse together. Senior, it's like this. Immediately, Lu Ming briefly told him what had happened in the heaven realm and the evil god realm. I see. After the ancestor of technique heard this, he nodded and sighed. Senior, I've brought out most of the divine beasts and humans from the primordial realm from the heaven realm. In a few months, Our small world will merge with the primitive universe. We need a place to settle these creatures. Lu Ming said. That's easy. I'll choose a place for you immediately. The ancestor of techniques smiled. The upright heaven star was shockingly large. It was several times larger than the dark underworld star. It was easy to settle the living beings of the primordial realm in. Follow me. The ancestor of techniques did things swiftly and decisively. After speaking, he waved his sleeve and a wave of energy swept up Lu Ming and flew him outside. The ancestor of techniques' speed was extremely shocking. The scenery around them constantly flashed by. Not long after, they flew far away and arrived at a grassland. This grassland stretched as far as the eye could see, with no end in sight. This grassland is vast, and its area is at least 10 times that of the Heaven Domain, Primordial Realm, and Evil God Realm. Your small worlds can just merge here. The ancestor of law said. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming was also very excited. There was finally a place to settle down. After rushing out of the Heaven Domain, he had finally won a chance of survival and successfully brought everyone out of danger. Senior, please wait for a moment. With that, Lu Ming's heart stirred and his figure appeared on a mountain peak in his small world. Here, Ancestral Gragon, Heavenly Thunder Emperor, Titan Longhorn Bull, and the others had been waiting for Lu Ming's news. At the same time, they were also prepared to fight to the death if there was any danger. Lu Ming. As soon as Lu Ming appeared, Ancestral Gragon and the others looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, how is the situation now? If there's no other way, we can fight to the death. Everyone spoke one after another. Everyone, we have already left the dark underworld star. Lu Ming said with a smile. What? Left the dark underworld star? Ancestral Gragon and the others were stunned, and then they were overjoyed. Left the dark underworld star? Could it be that they had escaped? We're safe now. Also, I'll bring you to see someone. After speaking, a force enveloped Ancestral Gragon and the others and moved them out of the small world. As soon as Ancestral Gragon and the others appeared outside, they looked around. In the next moment, their gazes were focused on the ancestor of techniques. After seeing the ancestor of techniques, Ancestral Gragon, Heavenly Thunder Emperor, and the others were stunned. Master. Heavenly Thunder Emperor seemed to be dumbfounded. He muttered to himself and then trembled with excitement. Greetings, Master. After a long while, Heavenly Thunder Emperor bowed down. Ancestor of techniques, it's the ancestor of techniques. At the same time, some people exclaimed. Among these people, some had existed since the ancient times. Some were even older than the ancestor of techniques, so they naturally knew the ancestor of techniques. When they saw the ancestor of techniques, they were inexplicably shocked. The ancestor of techniques had left the Heaven Domain a long time ago. They did not expect to meet him here. Heavenly Thunder, long time no see. It's time for your cultivation to break through. The ancestor of techniques smiled. Ancestor of techniques? Ancestral Gragon muttered with a complicated gaze. When the ancestor of techniques was still in the Heaven Domain, he had already been ordered to guard the Heaven Domain. When the ancestor of techniques left the Heaven Domain, he naturally knew about it. Also, he knew that those people would be controlled by the Yuan Luo Palace when they left the Heaven Domain. However, he was helpless and could not stop them, nor could he warn them. Later, when the Hell Protector ancestor went to the Heaven Domain and took out the Heaven-suppressing talisman, they worked together to seal the passage to the Heaven Domain. However, what surprised him was that the ancestor of techniques was not controlled by the Yuan Luo Palace. It's like this. The ancestor of techniques has created the righteous army to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace. Lu Ming briefly explained the ancestor of techniques and how they came to the righteous star. General of the righteous army? Ancestral Gragon and the others muttered. At this moment, they deeply understood that the ancestor of techniques' current realm was not something they could guess. It was probably shockingly high. Otherwise, how could he create the righteous army to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace? Some of the people here were of the same generation as the ancestor of techniques. Some of them were even older than the ancestor of techniques. However, at this moment, their eyes were filled with respect. That was the way of cultivation. Those who had reached the top were the seniors regardless of age. Since the ancestor of techniques' cultivation was far above them, they naturally could not treat the ancestor of techniques as their peers. The ancestor of techniques swept his gaze across the crowd and nodded slightly. His heart was also filled with complicated emotions. There were many familiar faces here. After so many years, seeing so many familiar faces made him feel rather emotional. Alright, you guys can stay here for now. I will send someone to help you. If you need anything, you can ask me, said the ancestor of techniques. With that, he turned into a beam of light and left the place. Is this the Eldritch universe? What a rich divine chi. This cultivation environment is truly shocking. I feel like I'm about to break through. Haha, me too. After the ancestor of techniques left, everyone finally felt it. They were all shocked by the cultivation environment here. Chapter 2582. Moreover, some of these people had been stuck in the demigod realm for countless years. It was impossible for them to break through in the heaven realm. The heaven realm's conditions were not enough for them to break through to the martial god realm. At most, they could cultivate to the demigod realm. Their foundations, their comprehension had already reached their limits. Now that he had arrived at the primitive universe and arrived at the upright star, he had an urge to break through. Let's let them out first and settle them down. It won't be too late to break through after the small world and the primitive universe have merged. Yes. Immediately, Lu Ming and some people who had cultivated small worlds released the divine beasts and humans from their small worlds. People kept appearing on the plain. Not long after, a dense crowd of humans and divine beasts appeared. Their numbers were immeasurable. These were the people and divine beasts of the entire primordial realm. Naturally, their numbers were frightening. However, the plain was too big. It was more than 10 times the size of the evil god realm of the primordial realm. It could easily accommodate them. Ladies and gentlemen, we're safe now. This is just Heaven Planet, the Urwild's universe. We can settle down here and build a city. Lu Ming's voice rang in everyone's ears. Is this the primitive universe? God, what kind of energy is this? It's much stronger than origin chi. My cultivation is about to break through. I just took a breath. In this environment, I feel that even if I don't cultivate, I can strengthen my body and break through my cultivation. Countless humans and divine beasts were shocked when they sensed the environment. The cultivation environment of the primitive universe was much better than that of the primordial realm of the heaven realm. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. They were right. Even if they didn't cultivate here, their cultivation could still increase. This was especially true for some low-level martial artists. For example, those below the martial emperor realm felt that with every breath, their cultivation was increasing. Their bodies were being tempered and constantly becoming stronger. Their feelings were not wrong. In the primitive universe, no matter what kind of creature it was, whether they cultivated or not, as long as they reached adulthood, their cultivation would reach the martial emperor realm. In other words, any farmer in the primitive universe would have the cultivation of a martial emperor. This was the divine realm. It couldn't be compared to the heaven realm at all. The environment here was too good. Any creature that stayed here for a long time would automatically evolve in all aspects and undergo a transformation. Many talented people could easily cultivate to martial sage or martial emperor. Of course, it was not easy to reach the martial god realm. It was a hurdle that stopped 99% of the living beings in the primitive universe. Everyone, let's familiarize ourselves with each other first before we begin. Lu Ming's voice sounded again. Everyone first familiarized themselves with the environment. After that, the ancestral Gragon and the others began to make arrangements. Everyone began to build a city on the plains. Not long after, a group of experts from the righteous army arrived. They were in charge of protecting the lives of the heaven realm. After all, there were some living creatures living in this grassland. Although there were no terrifying existences, any living creature had the cultivation of the martial emperor realm. To most of the humans and divine beasts in the heaven realm, they were very threatening. Following that, countless heaven realm living beings started to get busy. Many huge and majestic cities were erected on the grassland. At the same time, the righteous army had formation experts who helped them carve large formations. This way, as long as they stayed in the cities, they would be safe. Several months passed in the blink of an eye. Countless living beings in the heaven realm settled down on the grassland. Hundreds of huge cities suddenly appeared on this boundless grassland. In the past few months, the cultivations of countless living beings in the heaven realm skyrocketed as they continuously made breakthroughs. This was especially true for those with low cultivations. The speed of their breakthroughs was even more shocking. For example, Lu Ming's parents, Li Ping and Lu Yuntian, had directly charged into the martial sage realm. Furthermore, they were improving every day. When the countless living beings in the heaven realm first came to a place like this, they were destined to have a period of explosive growth. Once their cultivations were high, their progress would be slower. When they reached the martial emperor realm, their progress would be much slower. However, there were still many martial emperors who made breakthroughs. The lower the cultivation, the easier it was to break through. On this day, rumbling sounds came from Lu Ming's body. The 1-year period is up. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He had been in the primitive universe for a year. The small world in his body was about to merge with the primitive universe. Lu Ming's figure moved and turned into a beam of light, appearing on an empty plain. At this moment, countless people rushed out and arrived at the empty plain. Like Lu Ming, they cultivated the system of laws and refined their small worlds. At this moment, they were about to merge with the primitive universe. But Lu Ming's small world vibrated more and more violently. Then it flew out on its own. After the small world flew out, it directly landed on the grassland and merged with the ground of the grassland. The area of the grassland rapidly expanded. Lu Ming felt a wave of weakness in his body. This was caused by the merging of the small world and the primitive universe. Whoosh. At this moment, the mountain river diagram flew out from Lu Ming's glabella and merged with the ground. As expected, even the paradise treasure can't be kept. Lu Ming sighed. The nature of the paradise treasure was the same as the small world. It was not allowed to exist in the primitive universe. In the primitive universe, except for some natural space secret realms, the small worlds cultivated by others that could allow living beings to survive were all not allowed to exist. The primitive universe was so domineering. It was the only one. However, spatial treasures such as storage rings were fine. This kind of spatial treasure only opened up a space to store things. Living beings could not survive in it, so it was fine. Fortunately, Lu Ming had put away all the treasures of the mountain and river diagram in the small world into the small world. In the heaven realm, all the living beings who cultivated small worlds had their small worlds merged with the ground. Whoosh! At this moment, an incomparably powerful energy poured into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming did not even need to refine it. This energy automatically transformed into the power of the world and the power of the ruler. The feeling of weakness quickly disappeared, and Lu Ming was full of energy again. This was the feedback from the primitive universe. The primitive universe was fair. If it took away his small world, the corresponding energy would be returned to him. Lu Ming felt the power of the world and the power of the ruler in his body surging. His total energy did not decrease. His cultivation was the same as before. There was no difference at all. It was just that the small world had disappeared and turned into the power of the world and the power of the ruler. This is good too. It will be more convenient for me to break through to the martial god realm in the future. Lu Ming smiled. In order to break through to the martial god realm, he had to merge everything into one. Even if the small world did not merge with the primitive universe, he would have to find a way to merge everything in the future. However, that would be more troublesome. In this way, it would be more convenient for Lu Ming to break through to the martial god realm in the future. Chapter 2583. Peace returned to the world. The small worlds and the bodies of all the people in the heaven realm and primordial realm who cultivated the nomological system fused with the grassland. The area of this grassland had also expanded a little. The distance between some of the big cities had also increased. Boom, boom. Right at this moment, several auras soared into the sky, shocking to the extreme. That's breaking through to the martial god realm. Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he looked in the direction of the explosion. Emperor Heavenly Thunder, Emperor Rebellious, there were a total of 5 people, and their auras were getting stronger and stronger, reaching the peak. This was the sign of breaking through to the martial god realm. Lu Ming had not expected the Heavenly Thunder Sovereign and the others to break through at this moment. However, on second thought, it was reasonable. Martial Monarch Heavenly Thunder, Martial Monarch Rebellious, and the others had long achieved the half-martial god realm. They had been accumulating their strength for a long time, thus they could have long achieved the martial god realm. However, in the heaven realm, the conditions were limited, so it was difficult to successfully break through. The bodies of Sovereign Heavenly Thunder and Sovereign Rebellious were like 5 vortexes, constantly absorbing the energy of heaven and earth. Between the heavens and the earth, the surging divine chi continued to gather towards them. A few days later, their auras skyrocketed. There was a layer of light on the surface of their bodies that looked like flames. It was a blazing divine flame. Level 1 Nihility God Realm they had broken through. No heavenly tribulation. Lu Ming's eyes flickered in surprise. He had long discovered this situation. This was because during this period of time, too many people and divine beasts in the heaven realm and primordial realm had broken through, but there was no heavenly tribulation. In the heaven realm and the primordial realm, breaking through to the martial emperor realm, martial saint realm, and martial emperor realm would be accompanied by a calamity. However, there was nothing here. In the heaven realm, there was a terrifying heavenly tribulation when breaking through to the half-martial god realm. Lu Ming initially thought there would be a heavenly tribulation when breaking through to the martial god realm, but to his surprise there was none. Perhaps this is the difference between the primordial realm and the primitive universe. Lu Ming pondered. In the heavenly world, the primordial world and the fiend god world, the heavenly Tao was supreme. All heavenly tribulations were evolved from the heavenly Tao. However, the heavenly Tao was only the heavenly Tao of the primordial realm. It had nothing to do with the primordial universe. Perhaps there was no such thing as a heavenly tribulation in the primitive universe. Lu Ming let out a smile. This was good. His parents' cultivation had been increasing, and it was only a matter of time before they broke through to the martial emperor realm. Without the heavenly tribulation, Lu Ming felt more at ease. Congratulations, congratulations. Emperor Heavenly Thunder, Emperor rebelled, and the others had successfully broken through to the martial god realm. Many people flew over to congratulate them. The Heavenly Thunder Sovereign and the others were also full of smiles, unable to hide the excitement in their hearts. They had been trapped in the same realm for too long. In the past, it had been difficult for them to break through. Now that they had broken through, they suddenly felt like birds flying freely in the sky. Their minds were also broadened. Lu Ming also came forward to congratulate him. After a lively moment, Lu Ming returned to his residence. Lu Ming was currently living in a newly built city. Yi Xianyanqing, Lu Shenhuang, Lu Qi, his disciples, and his parents all lived in this city. Lu Ming entered a room and sat down cross-legged. A crystal appeared in his hand. This crystal was the size of a fist and it was crystal clear. This crystal was called a divine crystal and it was formed by pure divine qi. In the Netherworld Mountain, the divine stone that Lu Ming obtained was also condensed from divine aura. However, that kind of divine stone could be said to be a second-class divine crystal. The divine aura contained in it could not be compared to that of a divine crystal. Tens of thousands of divine stones were only equivalent to one divine crystal. After all, the Yellow Spring Mountain had been sealed in the primordial realm of the heaven realm. After a long time, the divine qi was no longer pure. The divine stones that were formed naturally could not be compared to divine crystals. Divine crystals were the hard currency of the divine world. They were divided into lower, middle, upper, and supreme grades. The divine crystal that Lu Ming had was a lower-grade divine crystal. One piece was equivalent to tens of thousands of divine stones. Divine crystals of the middle grade and above were naturally rarer and more precious. Lu Ming had killed 7 or 8 empty god realm experts who had invaded the heaven realm. On the dark underworld star, he had also killed a few experts from the Yuan Luo Palace. He had obtained some lower-grade divine crystals from their storage rings. In total, there were more than 5,000 pieces. If these 5,000 lower-grade divine crystals were exchanged for divine stones, it would be more than 100 million divine stones. If they were exchanged for supreme-grade primordial stones, it would be an astronomical figure. Primordial stones were only produced in the primordial realm of the heaven realm. There was a huge difference between them and divine crystals. Naturally, they could not be compared. Lu Ming tidied up the items in his hands and continued to cultivate. Time passed quickly. Soon another year had passed. In this year, more people had broken through. The overall strength of the people from the heaven realm and primordial realm continued to increase. Moreover, many demigods had successfully broken through and entered the martial god realm. Almost all of the veteran demigods had entered the martial god realm. Even the Dandan, Titan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Demon Silkworm and the others were about to break through. Lu Ming, I am about to break through. On this day, Xianyanqing said to Lu Ming, about to break through? All right, I will protect you. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Xianyanqing nodded. The two of them left the city and came to an open space. Xianyanjuan. In front of them, there was a figure sitting cross-legged in mid-air. His body was emitting a bright sacred light. It was a coincidence to meet Xianyanjuan here. You are about to break through too? Xianyanjuan looked at Xianyanqing in surprise. That's right. Xianyanqing nodded. I didn't expect your cultivation speed to be so fast after absorbing the memories of your past life. It makes me a little jealous. Xianyanjuan smiled. If I don't cultivate faster, I will be surpassed by you. Xianyanqing smiled faintly. Then he went to the other side and sat cross-legged in mid-air. His body was emitting a dark light. Xianyanjuan did not say much. He closed his eyes and adjusted his condition. Boom, boom. 3 days later, almost at the same time, shocking auras exploded from the two of them. A black pillar of light and a white pillar of light soared into the sky, breaking through the clouds. At that instant, many people fixed their gazes in their direction. Such a shocking aura, it seems like someone has broken through to the martial god realm. In a city, the ancestral dragon's eyes glittered as he sprang into the sky. He soon appeared not far away from Lu Ming. Following it, the heavenly lightning martial monarch and the others appeared too and observed from afar. Meanwhile, the auras emitted by Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan grew stronger as if there was no end to it. Rumble. The heavens and earth shook vigorously. Their figures were like two black holes as the god Qi between the heavens and earth gathered toward them and entered their bodies. Their auras skyrocketed once again as a terrifying aura burst out from them. This aura, why is it so shocking? How terrifying, it's more than 10 times stronger than when we broke through. How is this possible? The ancestral dragon, the chaotic martial monarch, the heavenly lightning martial monarch, and the others blurted out. Chapter 2584. The auras that Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan exuded were too shocking. Even those who had stabilized their empty god realm were shocked. Moreover, this was not the end. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's auras continued to rise. As time passed, the two of them seemed to have turned into two suns. One was as black as ink, while the other was as pure as a saint. It was as if two suns, one black and one white, were hanging in the sky, shining down on the entire grassland. At that moment, the grassland and the few hundred cities could all see what was going on. The commotion was too terrifying. The commotion caused by Shao Qing and Xian Yinjuan's breakthrough is far greater than that of the others. Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. At that moment, Lu Ming felt that the auras that Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan exuded were more than 10 times stronger than when the others had broken through. Moreover, it was still getting stronger. Swoosh. Not far away from Lu Ming, a light flashed and a figure appeared. It was the ancestor of techniques. It was obvious that even the ancestor of techniques was alarmed. Transformation, they are continuously transforming. Could it be that they are trying to control divine power? The ancestor of techniques muttered. His eyes were filled with shock. Huff huff. The attractive force on Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan grew stronger and stronger. Endless divine qi rolled towards the two of them. However, it was obvious that it could not keep up with the speed of their refinement. Lu Ming's expression changed. He waved his hand and many divine gems appeared. There was a total of 2,000 divine gems. 1,000 flew towards Xian Yinqing. 1,000 flew towards Xian Yinjuan. Once the divine gems reached their bodies, they exploded one by one and turned into rich divine qi. The divine qi flew into their bodies and was absorbed by them. After a day, the 1,000 divine gems were completely absorbed. However, the two of them had no intention of stopping. There are 3,000 divine gems left. Let's use them all. Lu Ming clenched his teeth and decided to throw out the remaining 3,000 god crystals. However, at that moment, the ancestor of techniques, who was not far from Lu Ming, waved his hand. Pieces of god crystals flew out towards Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan. With a sweep of his spiritual awareness, Lu Ming knew that there were a total of 6,000 divine crystals, 3,000 for each person. Bang! Bang! The god crystals exploded one by one, transforming into divine energy that was absorbed by the two of them. However, even after several days had passed, the two of them did not stop cultivating. The ancestor of technique waved his hand again, and another 4,000 divine crystals flew out, 2,000 for each person. This time it was finally enough. When the two of them finished absorbing the 2,000 divine crystals, their auras finally reached their peak and then slowly stabilized. He had broken through the martial god realm. Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan had both entered the martial god realm and were at level 1 empty god realm. Thank you, ancestor of techniques. Lu Ming flew towards the ancestor of techniques and cupped his fists to express his gratitude. This time, if the ancestor of techniques had not taken out 10,000 divine crystals, Lu Ming would not have had enough divine crystals. It's just a few divine crystals. You don't have to thank me. These two ladies are not simple. The ancestor of technique said with a smile. Then he turned into a beam of light and left the place. They are not simple. Lu Ming mumbled to himself. When Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan were below the martial god realm, their performance was already shocking. However, when they had broken through to the martial god realm, it was even more shocking. It was as if they had undergone some transformation. Xian Yinqing's past life or Xian Yinjuan's past life must have had an extraordinary background. Lu Ming had wanted to ask Xian Yinqing about it a few times. However, Xian Yinqing seemed to be hesitant and was unwilling to talk about it. Lu Ming wanted to ask Xian Yinjuan about it, but Xian Yinjuan was unwilling to talk about it. Lu Ming had no choice but to give up. Congratulations, congratulations. At that moment, Xian Yinqing and Xian Yinjuan's auras had stabilized. Ancestral Gragon and the others immediately went up to congratulate them. Entering the martial god realm was equivalent to entering another level of life and becoming a deity. It was the second step of cultivation. It was no small matter. Xian Yinjuan was cold. He nodded his head casually and stepped into the sky to leave the place. Thank you, seniors. Xian Yanqing nodded his head with a smile and flew towards Lu Ming. Not long after, Ancestral Gragon and the others left too. Xiaoqing, how do you feel? Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's hand and asked. I'm fine. Do you want to have a duel with me? Xian Yanqing blinked his eyes and looked at Lu Ming with a faint smile. What is it? Are you trying to trample me under your feet? Lu Ming teased. When he had first met Xian Yanqing had been thinking about trampling him under his feet every day. What? No way. Xian Yanqing glared at him. Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Lu Ming smiled and planted a kiss on Xian Yanqing's lips. His figure drifted backward and stood opposite Xian Yanqing. You dare to take advantage of me? I'm going to take advantage of you. Xian Yanqing's eyes flickered. With a flicker he charged at Lu Ming. So fast. Lu Ming was shocked. He stomped his foot heavily and retreated rapidly. Then his body emitted a dazzling purple-golden light. Lu Ming circulated his Tao of Sovereign to 80% and sent out a palm strike. The powerful palm strike surged towards Xian Yanqing like a tidal wave. Xian Yanqing also sent out a palm strike. His palm was wrapped in a layer of black light. Bang! Their palms collided. Lu Ming's expression changed instantly. He felt a terrifying force surging toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt a sharp pain in his arm. He was knocked back 100 miles. What a powerful force! Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. He had already used 80% of his strength, but he couldn't block Xian Yanqing's attack. He retreated, but Xian Yanqing didn't move at all. He didn't even sway. You'd better use your full strength. Otherwise you're no match for me. Xian Yanqing smiled. Looks like I'll have to use my full strength. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He unleashed his Tao of Sovereign to the extreme. At the same time he began to activate the battle formula. Lu Ming had not stopped comprehending the battle formula since he came here. His comprehension of the battle formula was getting deeper and deeper. The success rate of activating the battle formula to double one's combat strength was also increasing. In a few moments, Lu Ming succeeded in activating the battle formula, and his combat strength skyrocketed. Whoosh! Xian Yanqing rushed toward Lu Ming like a black stream of light and sent out another palm strike. Lu Ming also sent out a palm strike. Boom! The two exchanged blows for the second time. An earth-shattering explosion erupted in the sky. Then a figure was knocked back. It was still Lu Ming. This power, Lu Ming was shocked. He had unleashed his full strength and activated the battle formula to double one's combat strength. Such combat strength was enough to kill an ordinary level 2 empty god. However, he was still defeated by Xian Yanqing. Let's continue. Lu Ming's interest was piqued. He dashed towards Xian Yanqing without any scruples and unleashed his full strength. He and Xian Yanqing exchanged blows and engaged in a fierce battle.